When it comes to ultra minimum battles, the setting where we beat the entire game of Pokemon Red and Blue with only 13 battles in total, the 8 gym leaders, the Elite Four, and the champion, that is it. There's one Pokemon that I think is going to absolutely crush this challenge, even though it doesn't have great stats: Venomoth. We all know that it's not actually a bug poison type Pokemon, but actually a steel, dark, ground, psychic, dragon type. But it also comes in with a couple of stats that are pretty darn good: 90 base special and 90 base speed. Everything else is pretty decent here. So even though it only ranks 63rd out of 151 Pokemon in Gen 1 with a 375 base stat total, the speed and special are a little bit OP in Gen 1. But there's another reason why I think this Pokemon's going to be great. It has a pretty darn good moveset. It gets to learn psychic type moves via level up, and it will get Sleep Powder at level 43, together with Stab Leech Life to use against poison and psychic type Pokemon, because Leech Life is super effective against poison types in Gen 1, and it will learn plenty of TMs. We're going to get access to things like Hyper Beam, Mega Drain, Solar Beam, and Psychic on our TM learn set, giving us some actual moves to use as we go through this challenge. When you add on the fact that it's fairly fast, if we can ever get to Sleep Powder, I think we're going to have good chances of winning in this challenge. The question is, can we survive long enough against all of the gym leaders to actually get to Sleep Powder at level 43? Because most likely we're not actually going to get that move until we get to Lorelei on this setup. Will it be enough? I'm honestly not sure, but let's get into this and find out. So today, as we come to Professor Oak's lab, of course, he's going to give us the Poison Moth Pokemon Venomoth right here. We're going to pick it up inside of the Bulbasaur Bowl, though I think that this is a little bit of a mistake, because as a Fire Dragon type, we are going to be 4 times resistant to the Fire type moves of the rival's Charizard. Plus, we're also a Steel type, but that kind of cancels everything out, so I guess this is fine. Still, first things first, we need to make this into the single strongest Venomoth that has ever existed in the history of the Pokemon franchise by dumping it full of vitamins and giving it Max DVs. So let's see how strong this one actually gets when it gets all of these advantages. And with that done, we are greeted by Morphon. That is the Japanese name of this Pokemon. I could have put on the U after the R, but you know, it's fine. Morphon is coming in with 25 HP, 15 in attack, 14 in defense, and 17 in both speed and special. So we should have pretty good advantages at the start of the game. We also come in Pokemon Red and Blue with a moveset of Tackle, Disable, Poison Powder, and Leech Life at the start. It doesn't actually get Confusion at the start in this version of the game. The moveset that's showing up there is actually from Pokemon Yellow, where it does get access to Confusion at the start of the game. Still, I think this is going to be perfectly fine. Let's get into the Rival 1 fight, which we will of course lose here because he's got a level 100 Gengar, but who knows, maybe we could get some sort of luck here. Let's go for the Leech Life and deal 1 damage. Yeah, there's no way that we get this to go because we don't have Confusion strats at the beginning, so we simply get wrecked. That's perfectly fine. Let's move on to our actual challenge. When we step out of Professor Oak's lab, we are taken to Sabrina's gym, where we find all of the gym leaders have been placed into cells around this area. Now, this is based on an actual challenge run setup where you can use Glitch City in Gen 1, just a crazy glitch, to go anywhere in the map that you want at any time, so you can get any TM that you really want. You could go fight any of these gym leaders in any order, and it's actually legitimately possible in the Gen 1 games. We've put all of these gym leaders here just for convenience, and we've added a couple advantages for our Pokemon. Number 1, we can come talk to this guy and he is just a healer, and this statue has turned into a PC that is loaded with almost every TM in the entire game, since naturally we could just walk around the overworld and pick all of these up. We can get things like Solar Beam, we can get access to Psychic right from the start. Hyper Beam is legitimately available. You would just have to gamble for a small eternity at the Rocket Game Corner. And then technically we can get things like Double Edge, Swift, and Reflect. I'm not sure they're ever going to be useful, but they are strategies that we could use in a pinch. And on top of that, we can get access to things like Mimic, rest, and substitute, though we're going to avoid those TMs if at all possible. Double team is not allowed in this challenge, so there is no double team TM, and all of the TMs that are gifts from the gym leaders are not available until we actually beat that gym leader, just so that we have some incentive to actually go through this challenge. Still, we can come to the Brock fight, and I think there's one move that stands out above all others as being useful right from the beginning of the challenge. That is Psychic. I think we're going to carry this move for pretty much the entire run. There is a possibility of forgetting it once though and relearning it via level up, but we should double check the level up learn set in Pokemon Red and Blue, because like I said, my overlay is showing Pokemon Yellow. So when we come to Bulbapedia and check the level up learn set, you see that Pokemon Red, Blue, and Green have a different moveset than Pokemon Yellow. In this version of the game, we actually never learn Supersonic or Confusion on this Pokemon. Psybeam comes in at the same level, same for Stun Spore and Leech Life. Poison Powder is technically in a little bit later, but we get it at the start of the game as well. And things like Sleep Powder and Psychic also come in at the same levels later on. So basically everything on our level up learn set except for Poison Powder is in the same place that it would be in Pokemon Yellow. Only Poison Powder comes in slightly earlier. I wonder why they made that change, but hey, it works. We'll simply move on with this. There's no change in TM compatibility between the versions. I don't know why they have a move reminder section here when there are no move reminders in this generation. And apparently if we transferred from another generation, we could get access to Guts and Screech. Sounds amazing. Anyway, let's get into this challenge properly. I will throw on Psychic just to have it available on this Pokemon, and I'm going to replace the move Disable because Disable is just pretty much trash in Gen 1. I think Psychic is way better. Let's see if this is enough to get through Brock. We might even have to go Reflect here for more survivability. I'm not sure, but let's test it out and see. So Brocky Boy attempt number 1, let's lead off with the Psychic here. We see we did about a quarter to this Geodude. We might need a special drop. It goes for Defense Curl though. That gives us a massive advantage because we can in fact knock that Pokemon out. Now we get to Onix and we are still slower than this Pokemon. So I'm going to go for Psychic again here, getting a special drop. He goes for Screech after a critical hit tackle. The non-crit doesn't knock me out and we do win on the first attempt, getting to level 8. So just like that, we have beaten one gym in 8 minutes and 41 seconds, including me doing live commentary here. We've learned one TM that didn't show up because it's on the level up learn set. So our actual score is 99 here. I'll get that fixed really quickly, but we do manage to at least get through the first gym leader without any major issues. But sure enough, we do have one TM used. So we'll throw that on with a score of 99 as we get through that one. Now we have to decide how to route though. We can go to Misty where she's going to resist Psychic. So I think we would have to get another move, though who knows, maybe having access to the Leech Life is enough here. I'm honestly not sure. We also might want a better neutral move to use against the first Staryu. I'm just not sure how this is actually going to work out. We're only at level 8 after the Brock fight, so this could be a little rough, but let's test it and see. So Misty attempt number 1, I'm going to go for Psychic on the Staryu, and yeah, it doesn't do that much. We get a critical hit tackle, then we crit and get a special drop, which is kind of good. That might allow us to survive, but unfortunately it just wasn't quite enough. Let's try this one again though. We might even want to go Poison Powder to get some chip damage on this opponent. We really do like the X defend here because of the fact that it gives us one free turn at least. The problem is just that we're not dealing enough damage with our Psychic here to actually get through. Solar Beam might be the strategy. We actually do manage to get to the Starmie on this attempt though, so I'm going to try to Leech Life here. Yes, she goes X defend, but at least we're healing back some HP. The problem is we're just not healing enough. We get a nice crit there though. We simply couldn't survive after that. So I'm going to go for the Solar Beam TM here on the basis that it will be super effective. Yes, I know it takes 2 turns, but I'll just learn it over Tackle since Tackle's doing nothing for us here. Maybe this can work out. Let's find out. So if we go Solar Beam on the Staryu after she X defends, we see we do nearly half here. It's still going to take 3 hits to knock that Pokemon out, but we do manage to get 2 Starmie. She X defends here. Maybe the Solar Beam can get the job done. Unfortunately, we just didn't get the range that time. We could need a Solar Beam crit here in order to get a victory. I'm going to go for 1 Psychic first on the Staryu and then hope that she X defends and hope that I can get that crit to knock that Pokemon out. Here we even get the special drop on Staryu turn 1. We get the critical hit, but it wasn't quite enough to knock that one out. Still, we've made it to Starmie only to get completely wrecked by the Bubble Beam. But here at the end of the day, this one simply isn't working. So I'm going to try Erica instead. The logic here is pretty simple. She's just going to go Wrap against me with the first Pokemon, but maybe we can find a way with Stab Leech Life to do enough damage to get through. I'm honestly not sure if this can work though. We might even have to drop rare candies at this point in the challenge. Still, I'm going to test this and see. We're just banking on a Wrap miss to get a chance to actually do something here. Here we get the Wrap miss. We see a critical hit from Leech Life, only does that much. We'll see what Psychic does instead here, but I'm not very confident that we actually get through this Pokemon. Here, Psychic only does very little against this Pokemon, 8 damage, so there's no way that we're actually getting through the Victory Bell with that either. So we need to try a different strat. I'm going to see if I can do anything against Koga on the basis that I'm only neutrally affected by poison, and I think he's actually just going to spam Tackle against me. Maybe Psychic can build up enough here to actually give me a chance. So we get smoke screened from the first coughing. We see a critical hit Psychic did basically nothing. Now he tackles and he completely destroys me. So that one's definitely not going to work either. I guess Lieutenant Surge is our last real try. So let's see if we can find a way through Surgy Boy. He X speeds on the Voltorb. We still do basically nothing here. And we're just hoping that we can actually get some special drops to get through this Pokemon. Unfortunately, we get wrecked by the very first Voltorb here. And there just doesn't seem to be much that we can do to get through any of these traders at this point. We just don't have the stats or the levels, and we don't have any badge boost glitch moves to get us through. So it's on that basis that I think we have to drop at least a couple of rare candies here to get to level 10. I'm going to go back to Misty, and I'm just going to see if at a slightly higher level I can get the victory. So Misty round 2 right here. Let's go for the Solar Beam again and just see what kind of range we get. We get a critical hit one-shot on Staryu at this level. Now against the Starmie, I'm going to see what different things do. Of course, we don't do much damage with the Leech Life after she goes for the X defend, but maybe Solar Beam can deal enough damage there. Let's test this and see. It does look like we need to get the crit to KO against the Staryu still. Still, we have a pretty decent crit chance here, so we should be able to get this to go. And then it's all about the range that we get on this Starmie. We're really hoping for her to X defend there. Even then, we probably need a little bit of luck to get through. It also turns out that a crit is not a guaranteed one hit on the Staryu. It is a range. So we're definitely not getting the one-hitter on the Starmie no matter what. We managed to get the one-hitter on the Staryu this time though, so we get to Starmie on good health. She X defense turn 1, she tackles with a crit turn 2, and we're just taking way too much damage here. I think I have to try something like Leech Life there just to get some HP back. That's really all I can do. There is a small argument for going for Psychic on the Starmie first, trying to get a special drop before we go for the Solar Beam. It doesn't work out that time, but that could be a way to actually get through this. At the end of the day, though, it looks like we either need to add on another TM or we need to level up more with rare candies. I really don't want to level up more with rare candies here, so I'm going to try a substitute strat to see if that allows me to survive against any opponents. Poison Powder really doesn't do that much for us, so while we are dropping the score, I think this might be the best way to go. So in this case, I will substitute against the Staryu. A tackle does not break the substitute, at least not on the first hit. So we can set up substitute again. Now go for the solar beam and try to knock this one out. We do get the KO. I'm going to go for the substitute again against Starmie. Of course, if it just knocks me out, I'll get wrecked. Nothing I can do there, but let's just see if we can get this to go. So here, when we get to Starmie on decent health, we can set up substitute to survive at least one strong hit. Of course, if she just goes for all of her strong moves, we get wrecked, but there is at least a chance there of getting something. Unfortunately, that doesn't really seem to work. I'm gonna try this against Koga instead, on the basis that maybe, just maybe, he can give me some advantage by trying to go smokescreen against a substitute. So Koga round 2, he goes smokescreen turn 1, but now with our substitute up, we'll start using Psychic and just trying to whittle this coughing down. Unfortunately, it just completely wrecks me after that. This time we get a bunch of special drops on the first coughing, so we are going to manage to knock it out and get to the muck for the first time. He X attacks here, giving us the chance to set up another substitute, and Poison Gas cannot hit us behind substitute, so we're just going to go for a bunch of Psychics here, hoping to get special drops. Of course, if it goes sludge, we get wrecked. Still, that just looks like it takes too many hits to get through, and there's just not really anything that we can do here other than go for rare candies, I think, and try to get the victory that way. I'm going to go up to level 13 and try Misty again. Here at this level, we're still slightly slower than these Staryu, but we can go Solar Beam, dealing much more damage now, so we're basically getting through to the Starmie on green health. We can go for Solar Beam. Let's see the range here. Bubble Beam did massive damage to me, and I cannot survive in that case. We really want to see Water Gun, or we want to see Tackle from that Starmie. We also need the Starmie to not crit us with those moves if it does use them. Otherwise, we get completely destroyed here. This time, we at least get a special drop on Starmie, so we did significant damage, but the Water Gun still takes me down from 10 HP. Still, that doesn't quite seem to work. So I'm going to come back to Lieutenant Surge and see if I can make any progress here now that I'm at a higher level, because honestly, this is not looking very good. Here we actually get through to the Pikachu at least. It goes X speed turn 1, and it looks like we're getting a 2-hitter as we do get paralyzed. Still, we've made it to Raichu. It goes Growl turn 1, X speed turn 2, Thunder Shock turn 3. We get a special drop, but then we're fully paralyzed and we couldn't move. We're going to have to try this one again. This looks better than any of the other fights right now. So we once again get back to the Raichu. This time we're not paralyzed. It goes Growl, but we're just gonna have to hit so many turns there in order to knock this one out. This time we get a Growl and a special drop, but we just couldn't get enough turns of him using Growl in order to let us through. We're basically resetting for the luck to not really get hit by the Sonic Boom from this Voltorb too many times, so that we can set up a substitute here. Of course, if it goes Sonic Boom after we set up the substitute, I think we just have to reset. This time we're back to Raichu with no status, still on green health. I set up one substitute there so we can tank the Thunderbolt. He goes Thunder Shock after that. We can't set up any more substitutes and we get wrecked. I think we had to set up the substitute to survive the Thunderbolt there though. So yeah, this is just really not looking great. Here, Leech Life does enough against Pikachu at least to allow us to get through to the Raichu. And we may as well see what Leech Life does there, since it is same type and gives us some healing. It's still not going to be great, but it might be our better play. Still, ultimately that doesn't work. I guess I'll try Erica again just to see if at this level I deal more damage, but I'm not feeling hopeful. Of course, we're still slower than the Victory Bell, so we simply can't make any progress on this one, it looks like. We're just getting wrecked by the wrap over and over again, unless we get a wrap miss. Here, when we do finally manage to hit, we look like we're doing about a quarter with something like Leech Life here. We would have to get multiple wrap misses in a row in order to have a chance against this Pokemon. Psychic with a critical hit does less than the stab Leech Life because our attack and special are pretty close, and her defense is much lower than her special. So that's why Leech Life is the best play here, even though it's a weaker move. It has healing where the other one doesn't. You know, we just simply can't seem to find a way through this fight. So here, I think once again, we have to just break down and drop rare candies. I'm going to go up to level 15 now. That will guarantee that we outspeed against Misty's Staryu. I think this is the best that we can do. It always feels bad when you have to go for early rare candies in these because you know that it's hurting you so much in the late game. But now we can just 3-shot against that first Staryu with the Psychic, and now we can try to get 2 Solar Beams to knock out the Starmie, or maybe a crit can get the job done. I'm honestly not sure. It looks like a Solar Beam can just simply one-shot these Staryu now. We get a nice special drop on the Starmie. She X defends. We nearly get the KO, and now I can Leech Life to finally get the victory, but it has taken a small eternity. 40 minutes, 15 seconds to get through there. Our score's down to 78.3. We took 97 resets in that section. Yes, we added on a broken TM. You can say, well, you didn't use substitute there in the end. Trust me, we're going to need it in just a little bit when we get to Koga. That's why it is there. But 2 gyms takes forever with this Pokemon. I don't know in advance if I need rare candies or not. I'm trying to put them off if at all possible, but it just turns out that with Venomoth, you have no other options than to go rare candies there. We're now still slower than Erica's first victory bell, so I think we go back to Lieutenant Surge and try to get the victory here. Let's see if we can get this to go, because we at least got to the final Raichu a few times, so it might just be a little bit about luck on that Pokemon. So back to Surgy Boy, I'm going to just go for the Psychic here on the first Voltorb. We're getting a 3-hit KO from the looks of it. We do manage to knock that one out and get to level 17 as the Pikachu comes out, and we outspeed and get a critical hit one-shot. That brings us to the Raichu. It goes Growl. We get a crit. It goes Growl again. We get a special drop right here as he X speeds, and now Thunderbolt critical hit one-shots me from that range. We just needed him not to get the crit, and we would have won that attempt. So this tells me that this is probably a winnable fight. It's just not going to be pretty. We get paralyzed this time, and we get quick attacked by the Pikachu, but we're back to the Raichu. It's once again going Growl. We just can't move because of the paralysis. We're getting Thunder Shocked, and we're going to need some luck here. Unfortunately, we don't get it, and we lose. Now, when we take a bunch of Sonic Booms, this is where I think we might want to go for Leech Life at least once on the Pikachu just to get some HP back, and then knock it out from there. Back to the Raichu, and here's where we just have to A and pray, basically. Just hoping that we can get through. We finally get it there after 3 attempts, but it's not a pretty range, especially considering that we've dropped rare candies. 42 minutes, 11 seconds to get through that with a score of 78.1. We're already to 99 resets in this. Really, I'm not feeling great, but we do have a speed tie now with Erica's first victory bell. That is the fastest Pokemon on her team, so this might finally allow us to actually get through Erica, given that we have the resistance to grass and poison, so she's just gonna wrap. But if we can win some speed flips, we'll be able to deal damage and hopefully take down that first victory bell. So Erica, again here, will go Leech Life at the beginning, dealing pretty significant damage. She misses a wrap after that. We get a nice critical hit Leech Life. It's going to take one more hit here. She does Super Potion, unfortunately, but we're still recovering HP from the Leech Life every time that we do manage to hit, and that allows us to finally get through the victory bell. I'm still going to stick with the Leech Life here on Tangela, just trying to get HP back. I'll save some of the PP for the final Vileplume though, so let's just go Psychic here and knock that one out. We've taken a few speed drops, but that shouldn't matter because we 4 times resist all of Vileplume's attacking moves. So as long as we get decent luck here and are able to heal with Leech Life, we will in fact get this one to go. Sure enough, we do. So now we can get to level 21 after defeating Erica. 43 minutes, 41 seconds to get it done. No additional resets there at least, but yeah, still not feeling great at this point in the run. I'm honestly not sure if we're actually going to complete this with our Venomoth here. This might actually turn out to be impossible. Still, we're going to go back to the Koga fight. This is where we need the substitute to have a chance. Let's see how it goes. So Koga back again for another one here. Let's see if we can substitute first. We dodged the smoke screen. Now Psychic is doing decent enough damage. I think we can Leech Life to get this one in a range to KO. Sure enough, we do. That brings out the Muck next. We outspeed and use Psychic. It misses Poison Gas. and we're going to get the 3-hit KO here from the looks of things. I'm just going Leech Life here to get a little HP back as we finish it off, so we're almost to full health on the second coughing. Psychic here does significant damage. Back to Leech Life to get it in a range, and then Psychic again to knock it out. That will bring out the final Wheezing. Here's where we run into a problem. We are 1 point in speed slower than this Pokemon, and it is only going to use the move Self-Destruct against us, and we know about the Self-Destruct substitute glitch. So this probably doesn't work unless we survive against a self-destruct legitimately. We get a special drop, but self-destruct ends me. There's nothing that I can do there. I do think that there is a strategy. It's just not going to be great. We need to set up the move Reflect. We have to decide what move to forget. I'm going to forget the move Leech Life here because I can always relearn it via level up. It will come in at level 27. So I'm just going to forget that. It's not a super strong move by any means anyway at this point. It was really only good for Erica. So let's go ahead and try the Reflect strat. So in this one, what we're going to do is we're going to set up Substitute first. We get a Tackle. I think that's fine. We'll set up Reflect next. Reflect lasts the entire battle in Gen 1. Here we can once again set up Substitute, and now we're just going to Psychic this first coughing down. That brings out the Muck, which we do outspeed. It goes Disable on Substitute. That's perfectly fine. And now we're using Psychic with a special drop. We get that Pokemon down. We're back to coughing. And here we just really need to pray that we get some good luck. We managed to knock that one out. We're back to the final Wheezing in this one. He X attacks turn 1, which is terrible for us because now he's probably going to knock me out with the self-destruct, even with the Reflect on. We're going to have to try this again. I think we have to get to that final Muck on really good health. So I think we can't have our substitute broken in this one if we're actually going to get through, which is kind of bad. Here he does break our substitute with Muck, and we had to use a bunch of extra PP there because of the fact that he used Minimize. So now we have to Solar Beam down the next coughing, and then we just have to pray that this is enough HP on that final Wheezing, but we get a critical hit, so we don't even get to see if we survive or not there. Let's try again. It might be better to avoid the substitute altogether and just go all in on attack here after setting up Reflect and just pray that he doesn't do significant damage. If he lands a Sludge, I think we have to reset. So this time we're back to the Wheezing. It self-destructs and it just knocks us out from that level of HP. I'm not sure we can survive on full HP there. So I guess we have to go to Giovanni and test him instead, because otherwise we just have no way to win there against Koga without dropping rare candies or going for the Mimic with Minimize strat. So here against Giovanni, we have a couple advantages. Number one, we have Reflect, so we can set that up to take less damage. Of course, if he crits, we get wrecked. But we can also say that he's not going to go for poison or ground type moves against us, which gives us a small advantage here. Still, we're going to need a bit of luck with this one to actually get through. I think if he's critting with the Rhyhorn, we just have to reset at that point. Here, the Doug Trio goes Growl against us, but then it goes Slash, and that's what we can't get. We need no Slash from that second Pokemon. Growl is perfectly fine since it's not going to do much damage to us, but we can see even against the Rhyhorn, Solar Beam is not like a one-hit KO here. It actually takes multiple hits to knock this Pokemon out sometimes. Here we get a couple Growls from the Doug Trio, but I think at this point we just have to use Psychic to knock this one out to avoid damage. We get one Sand attack, but now we can go for Psychic on the Nidoqueen, and we don't do much damage. So this is really not looking good. We get completely wrecked here. And at this point, we're slower than Sabrina, so she's just going to one-shot us. And we're slower than everything on Blaine's team, and they're just going to use fire moves against us. I think we once again have to go for rare candies, or we have to go for the Mimic strat. So that's what we're going for here. I'm going to forget Reflect, since it's no longer useful to us, at least for now, and instead go substitute Mimic on Koga. So here we're going to forget Reflect and go substitute Mimic on Koga. The entire strategy is this. We set up Substitute. We hope to not get our accuracy dropped. We knock out the first Pokemon. Now we Mimic Minimize. We're not going to set it up here. I'm going to save it for the next Pokemon. But when he disables my Psychic, then I guess I have to just Minimize here and pray. Once we're no longer disabled and he gets a miss with Sludge, we can start using Psychic to get a 4-hit KO on that Pokemon. I will finish the Minimize setup here on the second Coughing, since it doesn't really have anything strong to use against me. And then we'll go Psychic right here to knock this one out. But this is all about getting the miss from the final Wheezing here. When it misses, we survive. If it hits the Substitute, it survives because of a glitch in this generation. So we get to level 24 right here. We could learn Poison Powder. We'll skip the move, but it's taken 53 minutes, 20 seconds to get through Koga, and our score is now 65.7. We're over 100 resets. We've used 3 TMs and 2 broken TMs to get to this point. This is just really not going well. Here we do get the badge boost in speed, so we're pretty close in speed to the Nidoqueen on Giovanni's team, and I think we have to go Giovanni here. I think it's the only possible fight. We did gain a couple levels. Maybe this works out, but I'm not feeling super confident. We might have to Mimic into Horn Drill strats, for example, to get through here. So let's just try this on Giovanni. I'm going to substitute. We'll let him go for the Fury attack on me and then just knock him out from there. Out comes the Doug Trio. It misses Growl. We do about half with the Solar Beam, and then we knock it out the next turn. So we at least get to the Nidoqueen. We're still slightly slower. I'm going to set up Substitute here, though, and now just spam Psychic and just pray that we get these special drops here and that she doesn't use anything good. She goes Tail Whip, so that does allow us to get through. We get to level 26 on the Nidoking. It goes for the Guard Spec. We get a special drop, and now we just need to pray that we survive. We do not, so we simply lose. And we're not fast enough to outspeed anything here, so we're just kind of getting wrecked. Still, I'm going to go Psychic on the Doug Trio instead of Solar Beam just to take it down in fewer turns. And I will go Psychic here on the Nidoqueen, getting a nice critical hit there, so we do manage to get through to the Nidoking again. I'm going all in on attack. It goes Thrash, though. That is terrible. I wanted a Guard Spec there, or at least something weaker than the Thrash. That was its strongest move, and it completely wrecks me in that case. Still, we're at least getting to Nidoking reasonably reliably, so I guess we just have to go for this and pray. So I'm going to Mimic Body Slam from the Nidoqueen, hoping to get Paralysis so that I can outspeed against the Nidos, because they are kind of the problem here, but outspeeding plus the chance for them to be fully paralyzed might actually allow me to get through. Here we get Tackle from the Nidoking. Now we get Thrash. We do manage to paralyze it. The problem is we need it to be fully paralyzed. It thrashes about and we lose. Now we could also get a Tail Whip from the Nidoqueen that would allow us to outspeed her. The problem is that we level up immediately after that Pokemon, and that puts us in a bad situation against the next Nidoking where we have lower defense. So at this point, I think, again, we don't really have an option other than to go for rare candies, because we're not going to be able to get through Sabrina and we're not going to be able to get through Blaine. 2 rare candies puts us in a speed tie with that Nidoqueen, so that might be what we need. We even level up before it so we can outspeed here. I'm not going to learn Leech Life. I don't think it's worth it. So instead, we make it to Nidoqueen. I'm just going to go Psychic here and pray. She goes for the Tail Whip. That should be enough to allow me to outspeed Nidoking. The problem is just that we're not going to likely one-hit KO here. He Guard Specs. Now he goes for Horn Attack and we lose. At this point, mimicking Horn Drill might be my best play against this team because honestly, nothing else seems to work. So I'm basically trying to get a Tail Whip from the Nidoqueen so I can outspeed the Nidoking that comes out next. We don't get it, and of course we level up here anyway, so it wouldn't have mattered. So at this point, that just simply does not seem to work. Like I said, I don't think we can take on Sabrina because we're too slow. Maybe we can do something against Blaine. This is really the only option we have left. So here against Blaine, we do outspeed the first Arcanine, but I think I have to mimic agility and hope that he uses agility against me. If he goes Ember, he does massive damage with a crit. And here we're not doing any damage with the Psychic against these Pokemon. So that fight definitely doesn't work, which means that we basically have to go back to rare candies here if we're going to get through this. I don't think we can learn Leech Life, so we're just going to have to slam all the rare candies. We're not quite as fast as the Nidoking on Giovanni's team, but this is the best I can think of. So back to Giovanni at this level, I am going to mimic Horn Drill to have a strat against the Nidos. And now Solar Beam that Pokemon down. We'll stick with Solar Beam on Dugtrio. We need no Slash from that Pokemon. I should still set up a substitute here just to have it and hope that he uses non-damaging moves or at least weak moves with this first Rhyhorn. We can reset up the substitute on the Dugtrio. It goes Slash right there, but we do good damage. We'll go for Psychic here, trying to knock this one out. Of course, it goes for 2 sand attacks and then we can't hit anything. So here we get to level 30. We could learn Stun Spore at this point, but we're faster than every major threat that's immediately in front of us. So I'm going to skip the move. I don't think we can forget anything. So I'm going to try to Horn Drill on the Nidoqueen. We do manage to hit. We're going to try to Horn Drill Nidoking. We do manage to hit again. That brings us to the Rhydon. I'm going to set up substitute in case it goes Stomp and now go for Solar Beam. And that finally does get the win there. We get to level 32, but that is not pretty at all. It's been an hour, 5 minutes, and 45 seconds just to get through Giovanni there. We still have 2 gyms left. We're up to 136 resets, 3 TMs, 2 broken TMs, and we have to take on Blaine or Sabrina at this point. This might be the first Pokemon where we actually end up skipping some of the gyms to instead go out and fight against Lorelei. There are actually good reasons to go to Lorelei here instead, but I'm going to try this and we're going to have to make a slight moveset change, I think, to get this to work against Sabrina, because I think we need a physical move in order to make this work. So there is an argument for forgetting Solar Beam in order to learn Hyper Beam here and just seeing if it can deal enough damage to get us through this first Kadabra. We're currently faster than it, so that would be one strategy. And honestly, it's the only one that I can think of that might work here, is to forget the Solar Beam. I think we still need Mimic and Substitute going forward, so I'm just going to have to keep those on the moveset. Let's see how this goes. So Sabrina attempt number 1. I'm going to try the Hyper Beam here. We do one-shot against the first Pokemon. Now against the Mr. Mime, we're just going to stick with Hyper Beam. He goes for Light Screen twice, which is perfect. I am going to go Psychic on the Venomoth. We get a special drop. It goes Leech Life. That's perfectly fine. We get the 2-hitter. That will bring out Alakazam. We go Hyper Beam after it misses Psywave, and we get a critical hit one-shot. So we do manage to get through there, but I think that only works because we outspeed. If we're slower than the first Kadabra, I think we get wrecked. We also got really good luck on that Mr. Mime and good luck on the final Alakazam to not get a Psybeam. So it takes an hour, 7 minutes, 27 seconds, but we do get through Sabrina at least, and we're able to move on in the game. We've used all the rare candies at this point. We can't gain any more levels via rare candies. So now we just have to see if we can somehow beat Blaine with this setup. If Blaine is looking impossible, I might skip him and go to the league because we do have some good setups on Lorelei. We're just going to have to see how they actually work out. So Blaney Boy round 2 here. We will once again mimic agility. Ember doesn't do that much, fortunately, so we can set up the agilities here. Let's see what we do with Hyper Beam at this point. We do not quite one-shot against the first Growlithe, but we do take it down at least. Let's try the Hyper Beam on Ponyta. Still not a one-hit KO here either, so we're getting wrecked. We're gonna have to go Psychic into Hyper Beam on these ones. That is even considering that we get the 3 agilities set up for the badge boost glitch here. So definitely not looking great. Here we get a nice special drop on Growlithe at least, so we can knock that one out. We get a Fire Spin miss from Ponyta and knock that one out. We're on to the Rapidash. We hit Psychic. It misses Fire Spin. I'm still going Psychic a second time. We get a special drop. Now Hyper Beam does not knock it out. We get the Fire Spin, but fortunately we got the special drop, so we were able to get through there. We've made it to Arcanine. We get a critical critical hit, but then it fire blasts me and I simply lose. Let's try this again. We probably should try to get a substitute set up on the Arcanine so that we can at least give some chances for him to use the full health super potion. That's probably our only good play there. Here on Rapidash, we once again get a special drop. He goes for some super potions. We get another special drop as it finally hits the fire spin on me, but we do knock that one out. We've made it to the Arcanine. We basically need super potions or misses here. Even the special drop is not going to be enough to get us through on such low health. We are getting really good luck with fire spin misses this time, so we get to the Arcanine with a substitute. We hit Psychic turn 1, it hits Fire Blast. I'm gonna have to set up the substitute again right here. We're hoping for super potions. Let's see what Hyper Beam does. It does that much. It's not nearly enough, and we simply get wrecked from there. And sure enough, I can't seem to get Blaine to work, so I guess we have to back out of here, and we're basically going to go to the league instead. We're gonna try our hand at Lorelei. This isn't gonna necessarily be pretty, but I do think it can ultimately work. I'm going to replace Hyper Beam with Mega Drain here to give us a strategy. Now, the reason why Lorelei possibly makes sense here is because of the fact that this first Dugong will never attack a poison type Pokemon. She's just going to spam Rest over and over and over again. Still, we might not be doing enough damage here at level 33 to actually get through this, because we can see that Psychic does pathetically little. The only advantage that we get is that we can get special drops. And if we get enough special drops, we might reach a point where we actually deal significant damage, but we would have to 3-hit KO in order to prevent her from going Rest. Still, at this point, we're finally getting some meaningful damage, just not quite enough to actually get the victory, but we do manage to ultimately get that one to go down. Now we can go Mega Drain on this Cloyster. It's going Spike Cannon against our substitute, and we just have to hope that we can deal enough damage to actually get through this one. Ultimately, we get taken down by the Aurora Beam. We're gonna have to try this again. I think this comes entirely down to how many special drops and crits we get. If we don't get special drops, it's basically impossible to get through this Pokemon, and we might have to add on PP ups to get this to go. So here we're going to set it so that we have 3 PP ups in Psychic and 1 PP up in Mega Drain to give us more chances to get those special drops and then deal some damage. This time we've gotten like 5 special drops on this first Dugong. I'm going to see if this is enough to get the 3-hit KO that we need. Sure enough, it is. So we managed to get through to the Cloyster. I'm going to go Psychic here, hoping again for special drops. We get hit by Clamp and it breaks our substitute, but maybe we can actually deal enough damage now to actually get through this. When she clamps again, we're just taking massive damage here. Spike Cannon doesn't do that much though, and we do manage to get through to the Slowbro, which is only going to go Amnesia against a poison type. So we can use this opportunity to set up 3 Amnesias ourselves, set up another substitute, and then we're just hoping that we can deal enough damage to actually get through here. The Amnesia, of course, makes it kind of hard because of the fact that she is going to have a lot more special defense, and even if we drop her special stat, she's just going to set up another Amnesia after that. So we get a little wrecked here by that fact, but ultimately we can take the Slowbro down. Out comes the Jinx. It goes Ice Punch, we survive, we hit the Psychic here, getting a special drop. Now it goes Thrash against me, and we get another special drop, allowing us to knock out the Jinx. We're out of PP in our Mega Drain though, and we have to hit Psychic and get like a 2-hit KO here. We get a special drop, and then we do manage to get through. So it turns out that you can get through Lorelei at level 33 with a Venomoth, even though it's basically impossible to get through Blaine at this point. Ultimately, this strategy works. Now we can go into the Bruno fight where we've got super effective moves against everything and we resist fighting type moves. I think we've got this one in the bag. Agatha's going to be hard. Lance is going to be only 2 Pokemon that we actually have to beat, and then the champion might be impossible. But let's get into this and find out. So Bruno attempt number 1 right here. I am just going to go Mega Drain on the first Onix, getting the 1-hit KO. Out comes Hitmonchan. We can go Psychic right here, easily taking that Pokemon down. Hitmonlee also can get Psychicked. It does massive damage with a Mega Kick, but we knock it out in 2 hits. Now back to the Onix number 2. It goes Rage as we just Mega Drain to get HP back. And this final Machamp can only hit us with Submission, and it's not going to be enough. We get the 3-hit KO here. Even Mega Drain can just finish it off from there, and we get to level 38. We could learn Psybeam via level up, but we've already got Psychic. The only argument for Psybeam is to have more PP against Agatha, though. So I might forget Mega Drain in order to learn Psybeam. This could be the play. I mean, there's not that many Pokemon that are going to be weak against Mega Drain going forward. So I think this is the way to go with our Pokemon. Let's just see if we can manage a victory now against Agatha. I think my strategy is pretty simple. I think I'm going to mimic Hypnosis, try to put things to sleep, and then try to use my Psychic type moves to take them down. So Agatha attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to go Substitute first because I want to have a little bit of protection against these Nightshades, etc. We'll mimic Hypnosis. We'll try to put this Gengar to sleep. We get confused. We hit ourselves in confusion, and we hit ourselves again, and that's basically the end of this one. We know that this is going to be a random fight because we're under leveled, but we still should have chances eventually. So we really just need to get the sleep on this Gengar and then set up Substitute to avoid confusion strats. Now we can go into Psychic. We see it does pretty decent damage here. When the Gengar wakes up, we're going to put it back to sleep to avoid taking damage, and we get the 4-hit KO on that Pokemon. That will bring out the Golbat, which we are slightly slower than. It hits with the wing attack, but we can put it to sleep. We'll set up Substitute again. Haunter also is a little bit faster than us, but it doesn't manage to hit the Confuse Rays as we're behind a Substitute. We can put it to sleep. Here, I'm going to go for Psybeam. I'm going to save the Psychic PP for the final Gengar if I can. Psybeam ends up getting it to very low health, and we can knock it out as she just swaps Pokemon back and forth. Back to the Golbat. I'll use a Psychic to try to finish this one off. It's not quite enough. She Super Potions, but we take it down from there. Out comes this Arbok. We get a critical hit with the Psybeam. We can knock that one out. We've made it to the final Gengar. We just need to land Sleep here. It Nightshades, and we lose. Still, this is clearly a winnable fight. It's just going to take a little bit of luck. The one advantage that we have here is that Agatha does attack completely randomly, so there is always a chance that she just uses Dream Eater while we're awake or something. Unfortunately, if she gets us to sleep in Dream Eaters, we are dead 100% of the time. This time we get to the Haunter and get it to sleep, and we've still got green health. I'm just going to spam the Psychic here. It does manage to get me to sleep in Nightshade to break my Substitute, and we're really praying that we can wake up here. Unfortunately, we couldn't. We get bit down by the Arbok. This time we're once again back to Arbok. This is the only Pokemon we outspeed, but we couldn't get it to sleep, so we lose. We get back to Arbok again. This time we do put it to sleep, but it immediately wakes up and then just knocks me out. Again, it could go Screech or something and give me a badge boost. Instead, it just happens to be using its damaging moves against me every time, it seems. This time we knock out the Arbok, but she still has the Haunter on the team. She swaps to the final Gengar here. If we can put this one to sleep, we might actually have a chance here. We get a nice crit. She tries to go Confuse Ray while we're behind a Substitute, and we might actually knock this one out. Sure enough, we do. We level up to level 40 right here. We've only got to take out the Haunter, and we've still got 4 Psychics. So just like that, we finally managed to get through in 1 hour and 33 minutes. We have successfully defeated Agatha. We're on to Lance, where we just have to get through the Gyarados. Then we get free wins against the 2 Dragonairs, and then Aerodactyl could damage us, but the final Dragonite will not. So we just have to see if we can somehow get this to go. We are faster than the Gyarados at this point. So here we just have to see what kind of range we actually get against this Gyarados. We are doing almost nothing with Psychic. We probably need a bunch of special drops to get through this Pokemon, and unfortunately we don't get it that time. Psybeam could also confuse it, but I think we have to go for these special drops if we're going to get through this. There is an argument for going Substitute here in order to avoid damage, though Dragon Rage will simply break our substitutes. We get a nice special drop here though. We get a critical hit after that. We can survive the Hyper Beam, set up another substitute. Of course, if it breaks a substitute, it doesn't count that as needing to recharge the next turn in Gen 1, one of those other Gen 1 quirks. We do manage to get it to low health, but then he Hyper Potions. He misses a Hyper Beam though, and so we finally manage to get through and get to the first Dragonair. I'm going to mimic the move Agility here so that we can just set that up 3 times so that we will outspeed against the Aerodactyl. I'm not sure if this is going to work, but I'm just going to use Psybeam a bunch of times on the Dragonair in order to knock it out. Same for the second Dragonair, simply because we need to find some way to get through here. We're obviously not dealing enough damage to get like easy KOs or anything, but maybe the Aerodactyl does something silly and allows me to win. We can go Psychic and we see we only did that much. This would be like a 4-hit KO at least. So we're probably going to have to get there with a substitute to have a chance. We really want this Gyarados to use bad moves against us if possible, and we really want to prevent him from using that Hyper Potion. There's just not a lot that we can do about it though. This time he goes crazy hard on Leer, so we've gotten to the first Dragonair with a substitute, and we still have some HP, but we're going to need a lot of luck against that Aerodactyl in order to survive. And note, we don't actually have a badge boost in special because we never defeated Blaine. So there is an argument to be made for going for something else here. Still, we're back to Aerodactyl. We confuse it. It misses Hyper Beam. Now it hits itself in confusion. Now he's no longer confused, but he misses another Hyper Beam. We get a crit, but he then Hyper Potions against me. Now he goes Bite. We're going to have to substitute here again. He goes Takedown. We can't substitute anymore, and he knocks me out. So that was insanely close, but we just didn't quite get the range. There is an argument for going for a physical move here though, because of the fact that our badge boosts are only coming in an attack, not in special. But at the same time, like, we don't deal enough damage here, I don't think, especially against that Aerodactyl. So I just don't see a way that we get through. I think we just have to keep resetting with this setup. I will just see what Hyper Beam does here once, just because I'm kind of interested. It doesn't look like it's a particularly strong move with our Venomoth though. Like, we're not getting 1-hit KOs here on the Dragonairs or something. So I think that we have to just get to the Aerodactyl and pray, basically. So once again, I'm going to go for the Agility strat instead, just trying to get as many badge boosts. It will help our defense at least, and then just spam the Psybeams on the Dragonairs, hoping that we can take them down with this move and keep some Psychics for that Aerodactyl. Here, we really want Aerodactyl to use Supersonic against us, or to miss with something. We get Bite, we'll have to set up Substitute again. At Hyper Beams, we can no longer set up Substitute. We get the special drop, but it's just not enough there to get through that Pokemon. There is an argument for going full tank here, basically trying to set up Reflect, which I'll throw on over Psybeam, and trying to go for Toxic, which I will throw on over Mimic, and then trying to go Rest, which I'll throw on over Substitute. The logic of this is that we can increase our defense, we can Rest to regain HP, and we can use Toxic to whittle things down while also having Psychic just for the 2 Pokemon that threaten us. Let's see if this can work. Here, I think we Reflect first, because if we get a Hyper Beam like that, we will at least survive. And then we'll go for the Psychics and Toxic here, and we're just praying that we can get through this first Gyarados. As he is taking toxic damage, it is going to take luck, but he could go for Leer here and give us the chance. Here, I'm going to Rest when I'm on kind of low health, especially because we can survive against the Hyper Beams here. Hydro Pump just ends me though. We need some special drops to survive against the Hydro Pumps. Here, when we take the Gyarados down, we have guaranteed opportunities to Rest against the first Dragonair that comes out. And then we can just set up Toxic here and spam Reflect reflect until this Pokemon goes down. Since it can't actually damage us here, that's all we're banking on, is just being able to whittle this one down with that move. Same for the second Dragonair. We just go Toxic and now just spam the Reflect over and over again. We've taken 2 defense drops, so we are on fairly low defense. As we get to the Aerodactyl though, it Hyper Beams. I survive. I can go Toxic. It's going to have to recharge, so I'll rest, and we're just praying that it uses something bad or misses a Hyper Beam like that. Now it hits again, but we are at least surviving here. I'm going Psychic here, hoping that it would go for something like Supersonic there. We just didn't quite get the luck. We managed to get through to the Dragonair this time with no defense drops from the first Gyarados. It just missed a couple of Hydro Pumps, giving us the chance to get through. We can set up Toxic here. Again, we're just going to spam Reflect over and over again, and we're just going to pray that we can survive against that Aerodactyl this time. Second Dragonair, back to the Toxic strat again, where again, we're just going to spam these Reflects until this Pokemon goes down. Of course, he's going to use Hyper Potions here, but that's perfectly fine. Back to Aerodactyl. It misses Supersonic. We managed to get Toxic. Now it hits Supersonic. We can hit Psychic though. Hyper Beam does less than half. We hit ourselves in confusion. I think we rest right here in order to get HP back. It bites and it goes takedown, but the Toxic does the job. So we get to the Dragonite here. With this setup, we can now go Toxic, and we're just going to spam Psychic from here because this Pokemon will never damage a poison type Pokemon. So it's not pretty, but we can ultimately defeat Lance with this Venomoth. Now we have to go to the champion though, and we have to see if there's any possible way of getting through here. The problem that we're going to have is that we're going to be slower than the final Charizard. We may need badge boost out speed there. We may need to just get god tier luck at that point because we don't have anything to protect us from that Charizard's fire type moves. We don't have Mimic on our moveset anymore, so we don't have any way to use that as a strategy for getting through here. So this might be where this one turns out to just be impossible. Let's get into the champion and find out. So champion attempt number 1. I think we have to go Reflect first, and we just barely survive against the Pidgeot. Now I'm going to go Psychic, and we're doing like no damage here at this level. I don't think a level 42 Venomoth has a chance in this fight. Who knows? He could go for bad enough moves for enough turns to maybe give us a shot, but then we're going to get to the Alakazam, and it's going to only use Psychic type moves against us. So I think this one is effectively over. Maybe we replace Psychic with a physical move like Hyper Beam here in order to get a chance, but that's really the only play that I can think of. Maybe it's better to go without Toxic, I'm not sure, but I do think that we've hit the wall. Here we get a Sky Attack miss twice in a row, so we do actually manage to knock out the Pidgeot. We level up to learn Sleep Powder right here. I'm going to replace Reflect with Sleep Powder. We get hit by Psybeam and we lose. Still, if we can get the Sleep Powder, we might just barely have a chance. Oh, this is going to be crazy hard to get through though. This is that spot where if we only had one more level to get to the Sleep Powder, we might actually have a better chance here because we'd be able to put Pidgeot to sleep and get a range that way to win. It takes a ton of attempts to even get back to the Alakazam, but let's see if we can get the Reflect. That's the only move we survive against. Instead, it goes Psychic and we get wrecked. No chance there. This time we get to the Alakazam on full health even, but I still don't think we can survive a damage dealing move here. It goes Psybeam. We actually do survive only to miss the Sleep Powder. Are you kidding me? That was ridiculous. We got the misses. We got crits on the Pidgeot. We got everything we could possibly want in that fight, and we still could not get this to go. Here at about 2 hours, we once again get back to the Alakazam, only to get knocked out yet again. It still hasn't given us the 1 in 3 chance to use Reflect there. Still, I feel like if we can ever get to the Rhydon, we might be able to rest there and find a way through this. It obviously significantly depends on where exactly we level up in this fight though. Because we're leveling up here, we'll probably level up one more time before the Charizard. We managed to get back to the Alakazam again. We finally get Reflect only to miss Sleep Powder again. Are you kidding me? Oh, that's ridiculous. The 75% accuracy just refuses to come in on that Alakazam. Let's try Alakazam again here. We're looking for 75% chance to hit Sleep Powder on the 1 in 3 chance that it uses Reflect. We don't get it. Still, the fact that at this point we have taken multiple attempts at the Alakazam gives me some confidence that this would happen eventually. It's just not gonna ever be pretty. Now, if I were to come back and do this again, I would know that I'm not getting through Blaine, and I simply wouldn't drop the last couple rare candies there and save them for this point, because this is where we would absolutely need them. Though we saw the ranges against Lance were not great. We have to get a lot of luck on that fight as well. So it's not like we would just get here and we'd be good to go, but the fact that we would be able to put the Pidgeot to sleep would make this massively better if we had even one more level here. So at this point, maybe we could make the argument to go substitute over rest. That's really all I can think of at this point that might get us through. This time we finally get Reflect and land Sleep Powder on the Alakazam. We can try Hyper Beam, and it looks like it's going to be a 4-hit KO. Are you kidding me? So here we have to recharge. I'm gonna just spam Sleep Powder until it wakes up and try to put it back to sleep. No chance. Anything less than a crit there will not even get close to doing half damage. So it's basically on that basis that I think we can fail this Venomoth. It doesn't have a move for the Alakazam that comes out second, and just getting to the Alakazam is an absolute nightmare. So I think we have to call this one done. I want to see what would happen if we had just one more level here though. So I am going to give myself one rare candy just to see if we already had the sleep at the beginning. So I'm just going to slam on this rare candy. We're going to give ourselves access to Sleep Powder over the top of Reflect, and we're just going to see what happens here. The first thing is that with one more level, we would already outspeed against the Pidgeot, dramatically improving our odds of simply getting to the Alakazam here. I think we can go back to rest rather than substitute. So back to our original moveset when we came in, except we have Sleep Powder instead of Reflect. Now we're still looking for some special drops on the Pidgeot or something in order to get through, but we ultimately get it down. We can get to Alakazam. We already saw we can survive Psybeam. We cannot survive Psychic, but this one additional level would make all the difference. And given that we dropped rare candies trying to get through Blaine, I think that we could get this to go eventually. The question is Charizard. Here we do get Reflect from Alakazam though, so we can go back to Hyper Beam here, still doing basically nothing with this move. We even miss a Hyper Beam, so that's nice. It goes Reflect again and again, so we do get to put it back to sleep, and we get the critical hit to finally get through that Pokemon on full health to the Rhydon. Here we could go Psychic, and it looks like this is at best a 4 or 5 hit KO. We do get a special drop, but then he full restores. So we're getting completely wrecked here. I don't think we have enough PP to get through the rest of the team. So here we could use our last Hyper Beam on Exeggutor, doing almost nothing, get put to sleep, and then just get completely wrecked. So yeah, we would not be getting through here, even with that Sleep Powder move. It just would not be enough in this setup here. So I'm just going to finish this off with a run where I see what happens, what the ranges would have been against the entire team at the end, because we can just put this Pokemon all the way down at 0 into the fail column. So here, because of the fact that I'm just coming in to test this, I'm just going to throw on other damage dealing moves, Swift and Psywave. We've frozen the team, and we're just going to see what the ranges would have been. So if instead we go Psywave against the Pidgeot, it's obviously terrible, but I do think this move will eventually knock it out just because of the fact that we can get random luck. Same here on Alakazam. You could go Psywave and basically do as much as we were doing with the Hyper Beam, so I guess that works. I'm just going to stick stick with this on the Rhydon. Not that this is a good move. I'm just using this to conserve PP for later. Psychic can destroy the Rhydon there. If we get to Exeggutor with Hyper Beam, we can see it does that much. So that's going to be like a 4-hit KO at least on this Pokemon. I'm just going to use Swift a bunch of times to finish it off. That brings out the Gyarados, which we would outspeed, so we would have had the advantage here, and we can just go Psychic a bunch of times on this Pokemon, but we can see the XP yield. We would have leveled up right here on the Gyarados with no way to outspeed against the final Charizard. So when Charizard came out, we would get to level 45, and we would be 13 points in speed slower than this Pokemon, and Psychic would do that much. So while 2 Psychics did get it to half health, now we would have to Hyper Beam, and we would need so many turns of it being asleep after it missed a Fire Spin or a Fire Blast to actually get the win there. So I think we can say in the end that this Pokemon simply doesn't work, which is really surprising to me because Venomoth was top tier on normal minimum battles. When you have all those extra fights and it gets access to the sleep powder basically around the mid game, you can carry this Pokemon through the rest of the challenge without too much issue. But here you get to Blaine and you just get destroyed because there is no sleep there. You don't get the sleep strats until level 43. So without all those random traders, you just don't get the move that you actually need to be able to progress well on this sort of setting. Now, it's pretty clear that that first run with Venomoth just didn't work. You get to the champion, but you don't have a badge boost in special because we never beat Blaine, and there's no way to go back to fight Blaine in order to actually allow you to get that badge. So you're just kind of stuck with nothing to do. You don't deal enough damage to the champion, and you get completely wrecked by his team. But you'll notice there's still a lot of video left in this one because I'm not quite done with this Venomoth. I think we can give it another shot at victory, and just maybe we can find a way to actually get this to work. You see, as I was doing this run, I was also working in the background on an update to the ROM hack that I've been using, and I added in a couple of new features that might just make this Venomoth viable. So let's get into this and see if it can work out or not. So this time as we step outside of Pallet Town, Professor Oak's going to come find us again, but he's going to tell us he's made some pretty major changes so that we can actually complete his research in this one. Though who knows, it may still turn out that Venomoth is completely impossible, but we're just going to have to test this and see. There are a few major advantages that have been added in. They just won't be immediately apparent, but I'll break them down as we get there. For now though, we will make our Ultramoth question mark the strongest Venomoth that is possible to have in a normal game. But I'm still questioning whether or not everything that I've done in the background will actually be enough. Note that there will be an update in more detail on this ROM hack that I'm working on over on the IRL Pokemon Challenges channel, where I will not only be breaking this down, but also opening it up for comments and feedback from you guys. So definitely check that out if you're interested. But for now, let's just see the one major change that has been made. Of course, we've still got to fight against the rival. There's no change here. We're not going to like beat this level 100 Gengar suddenly in order to gain a ton of levels, though we survived a lot more turns than I thought we would. Still, after that, we're ready to go into Sabrina's gym, where initially nothing will seem to have changed. It all just kind of looks the same, and frankly, I mean, these gym leaders are the same. There is only one real major change that is available at this time, but I think it will change everything. When we open our PC, we have a brand new item all the way at the bottom called the teleporter. This is just a kind of janky implementation that I've done to make it so that you can now go to any of the league's rooms individually. You do not have to take on the league in order anymore. So for example, if I wanted to go fight Bruno, I would choose Bruno in the menu. Initially, it will look like it did nothing. You're going to have to back out of the menu, but then you fly to Bruno's room, and here we are. We're ready to fight him if we want to. If, however, like in the last run with Venomoth, we wanted to back up and go back to fight against any of the gym leaders in Sabrina's gym, we can just use the same teleporter, choose Sabrina's gym, and we will fly back here, where we can now access any of the Kanto gym leaders that we haven't fought yet. This allows for much better routing through the game. We can take on Bruno early with this Venomoth. With Psychic, we could actually get an advantage by going to Agatha early. We saw that against Lorelei and Lance, there were some spots that we could exploit their AI. So at the end of the day, this could make a massive improvement for this Pokemon and for a lot of Pokemon that are currently in our fail column. The other question is this in the spirit of the challenge? And I would say yes. Since the entire logic is using Glitch City to go wherever you want on the map and get any items you want, fight the trainers in any order that you want, etc., it just kind of makes sense that you should be able to do this. The only reason it wasn't in the ROM earlier is because I couldn't figure out how to get it to work. But now that it is working, we can now progress in the game. So I'm going to come back and do round 2 with Venomoth in this video. That's going to make this a super long video, but I think that's perfectly fine. The biggest changes that I will make, of course, is that I'm going to be far more liberal with the broken OPTMs, since we already know that we needed them in the last run. I'll also be faster to go for rare candies in the spots where I know we absolutely need them, but we'll also be testing some strats against, say, Bruno and Agatha as we go through this. And if we ever reach a point where I think we could get through like the Gyarados on Lance's team, perhaps with a substitute strat, then I'll simply go for that, since I think we could get a ton of free XP there and maybe make some of these gym leaders a lot easier. For now though, I think the only logical play is to go to Brock, because we need to just get some XP at the start. I promise you right now, we are not strong enough to actually go take on even Bruno. So I'm going to learn 2 TMs here. I'm going to throw on Reflect over Tackle, and I'm going to throw on TM29 Psychic over the top of Disable, and this will be our moveset for the Brocky Boy fight. Let's just see how it goes. So Brocky Boy attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with the Reflect right here. Then we will go for Psychic. We get a nice critical hit right there. He goes for Defense Girl, then Tackle, but we do manage to take him down and get to level 7. That brings out the Onix. I'm actually going to use Poison Powder here, forcing him to use full heals while he uses Bide, but it also gives us an opportunity to actually get Poison to stick on this Onix. Now we just wait for him to unleash energy, and then we can go for Psychic. We really don't like when he actually goes for Bite again, but here we are able to still knock him out. Thanks to the special drop plus the poison, we can actually get that to go. Now I'm going to have to fix the layout here a little bit because I added in the ranks of our Pokemon currently. We can see that we're not great at this point in terms of score or speed, but we are at least through Brocky Boy. And with Brocky Boy done, we can now progress in the game, but we know from last time that we needed to add on rare candies here. We weren't able to beat Misty, we weren't able to beat Surge at this point just by going in and fighting them straight up. I am going to try one other strategy before I go for that though. We are going to throw on the move Mimic, and we are going to throw this on over the Reflect for now. I'm actually going to keep Poison Powder because maybe it turns out to be useful in one of these fights, but Mimic is the key here, I think, for getting at least a chance at getting through Erica. I'm also going to throw in some PP ups on my move Psychic though, so that I can use Psychic more times in this battle. And my entire strategy here is this. I'm going to reset a ton of times on Erica, but trying to get a situation where I get to mimic the move Sleep Powder and get another miss from Wrap that allows me to put the Victory Bell to sleep. Hopefully we can then deal enough damage with Psychic, maybe getting some special drops, etc., and then hope that we can get through the rest of the team. I don't think this is going to be great. It's probably going to be a massive grind, but this is my strategy at this point because I think it's the only way we could progress without using rare candies. Let's see if it works. Now, of course, this Victory Bell will only use the move Wrap against me, and Wrap is 85% accurate. So we're going to need like 2 15% chances for that to miss. Of course, if she crits, we just die. So we're going to need a lot of luck here. I am going to be playing this battle with a lot of speed up on, basically playing at 10 times speed because I know I'm resetting for luck. So once again, this is one to look at the score, not the time. The time will not tell you how good or bad this one was, though it will probably take a lot of time, even with this speed up on in order to get the luck that I'm going for. This time we finally get 2 wrap misses in a row on attempt 82 against Erica. Now I'm going to go for Psychic here. We're really hoping for special drops on this Victory Bell. So far we aren't getting them, and it's going to take a lot of turns to KO here. We do finally get a special drop, only for the Victory Bell to wake up and hit wrap, and that's basically it for us. We're simply not getting this to work out. So I think we have to drop rare candies at this point. We already saw that we needed them for Misty and Surge, but I'm going to try to drop 5 rare candies right here, leaving me 7 in reserve. But let's see if we can get through Erica. Once we get that to go, we'll still be slower, but the main point here is that we'll be more survivable. It will take more turns to knock us out with the wrap, and that may just be enough to give us a chance here. The level ups are also about damage though, because it was pretty clear we weren't getting anywhere close to the range that we would like to get on this Victory Bell. We can see currently with a new little bit of data that I've added in that Psychic is actually a 6-hit KO here, whereas Leech Life is a 5-hit KO currently on the Victory Bell. This time we finally managed to get Venomoth to sleep. We can go into Leech Life in order to recover HP, but we're just hoping this is a nice long sleep so that we can actually get the range to KO this Pokemon. Sure enough, we do. That gets us to level 15 as Tangela comes out. We missed the first sleep powder and the second one. We get hit by Constrict, but now Tangela is finally asleep. I can go Psychic here, and we got a nice special drop, but then it got a speed drop on me, and it's got me in the bind now. We really need to get this Pokemon back to sleep. If she just binds enough times, we will lose. We finally managed to hit Sleep Powder again, and at this point, I think we have to go Leech Life to get HP back, because we've taken so many speed drops. I think we're in bad shape. Still, we do manage to knock it out. We're slightly over half health, getting to level 16 as Vileplume comes out. It goes Mega Drain. I'm going to still try to put this Pokemon to sleep. We miss all of these Sleep Powders. Now it goes for Petal Dance though, and we're out healing this move. As long as we have enough PP in the Leech Life, we should get the win, and she hits herself in Confusion. So it took 128 resets there, and we did have to go for rare candies in the middle, but it takes 31 minutes 15 seconds with a lot of speed up to finally beat Erica. Our score is down to 75.3. Like I said, I'm gonna have to fix this layout. I was messing with this a little bit. I'm just gonna have to make some of the text a little smaller, but yeah, we have 2 gyms done. Now we can go, I think, and take on Misty and Surge. We're quite a bit faster now than we normally would be. I think Misty's actually not going to be that bad at this point, so let's just see if that is the case or not. So let's try Misty round 1 right here. I'm just going to go for Psychic on the first Staryu. We're faster, we get a special drop, and it's just a simple 2-hit KO right there. I'm going to even Poison Powder on the Starmie as I go into the Leech Life here, just getting a little chip damage, and hopefully we can just outlast this Pokemon. Sure enough, she's going for Tackle a bunch of times, but it doesn't really matter. Even Bubble Beam doesn't do enough, so we get the victory against Misty on the first attempt, getting to level 18. 32 minutes, 5 seconds to get through that one, but now we are at least making some progress. Let's go fight against Surgy Boy and just prove to him that he is in fact the trash man. But then I think is where we're going to make the big changes in our route here. Let's just see if we can beat him on the first attempt. So Surgy Boy attempt number 1 right here. I'm just going to go with Psychic on the first Voltorb. We are faster, and we're just going to get a 2-hit KO after a special drop. That brings out the Pikachu. We can go Psychic here. It looks like a 2-hitter. I'll just finish it off with a Leech Life. And that brings us to the Raichu. It goes Growl turn 1. We can see we got a special drop, but this is still going to take a couple more hits to knock this Pokemon out. But we get the crit, so we managed to get through Surge on the first attempt. Now 32 minutes 54 seconds to get through another gym. Currently our score is not great. We're 27th out of 30 runs that I've done. That does include the kind of Mimi runs, but our time is also not great. 26th out of 30 Pokemon, even with all this speed up on Erica. Goes to show how bad this Pokemon's actually doing right now. Still, we do manage to get through Surgy Boy, and now we can move on in the game. And it's right here that I think I'm going to make my biggest changes to my route so far. Because we can now teleport to wherever we want, I'm going to try to take on Bruno. Bruno. Specifically Bruno because we have Psychic on our moveset, and I think it's going to be good against his team, but also because he just attacks randomly. He's never going to use Smart AI. Against Lorelei, we would have free wins against the Dugong and the Slowbro. The problem would be the other 3 Pokemon, and against Lance, I'm pretty sure we still get 1-hit KO'd by anything that the Gyarados uses to attack us, other than Dragon Rage, which 2-shots us. And the Aerodactyl would have really good moves against us too. Even if we went in with a substitute, I'm pretty sure we get wrecked there. So I think Bruno's the only one that we can actually try that will give us decent chances of getting a victory. I don't expect this to be pretty by any means. I'm just saying it might be possible. I'm honestly not sure if learning a move like Reflect is worth it here. We would learn Leech Life at level 27, but the other thing I don't know is if we're beating Pokemon at this high a level, how many levels we actually gain in the fight. So I'm going to test this and see. First with my moveset as is, let's just see if we can manage to beat Bruno. So here against Bruno, I think the only strategy is to, for example, mimic Harden in order to be more defensive. Of course, if he manages to use Rock Throw, we get wrecked. There's nothing we can do about that. But I think mimicking Harden makes the most sense here just to give us more defense against his team. He's not smart enough to actually know he's supposed to go for Rock Throw, by the way. He can just go Harden himself, and that's what we really want to see. Or he can go Rage, which wouldn't be terrible for us if we can just manage to survive the hits. I just don't know if the level difference is big enough that we would be getting wrecked there. At this point, I'm actually able to survive against Rock Throw with the Harden setup. And let's see what Psychic does against the Onix. It's not that much, and we ultimately get knocked out. So we're going to need better setups than this. Honestly, I'm just not sure if this is actually going to work at this point because we're just so dramatically underleveled. One strategy to go for, though, is a Reflect strat in order to just double our defense right off the bat. And it might be worth it to learn this over Leech Life. Let's just see how this goes. So this time I set up Reflect, and now I'm going to spam Harden as well to take as little damage as possible. We actually managed to knock out the first Onix and level up to level 21. He goes X Defend on the Hitmonchan. We get a special drop, but then it Mega Punches to knock me out. It might even be worth going for a Rest strat here, basically setting up all the defenses and then going for Rest to recover HP. We could just forget Poison Powder, which will be relearnable later on, but this might be the best strategy. Now when we set up all of the Hardens, we reach a point where we're really taking almost no damage from the Onix. Like if it goes Rage, we can simply survive a ton of turns and then go into our rest. Critical hits will still do a lot of damage, but I think this fight is all about just getting as much defense as possible for the remaining Pokemon here. Once we get that set up, now we can go into our Psychics, hoping to get some special drops if possible, but either way, Onix should take pretty decent damage here. So we do manage to get through that Pokemon. That brings us to the Hitmonchan. It knows Elemental Punches, which will bypass our defense buffs. So we take pretty significant damage when we get an Ice Punch here. Then he goes X Defend, and then we get a counter, and that's enough to allow us to get through that Pokemon. Now we're to Hitmonlee. This is where I'm going to try to rest again as it misses a Mega Kick, and we're really just hoping that we can manage to last enough turns here. It looks like a 3-hit KO on the Hitmonlee. Our problem is we might run out of PP. We get to the second Onix right here. It hits Slam and does nothing, but again, this looks like a 3-hitter. Sure enough, it is. So we get to the Machamp, but we have no PP remaining. However, we get a level up and learn the move Poison Powder. Wait just a second. If we throw Poison Powder on over Reflect, we can poison this Machamp and then get the victory, I think. Let's see how this goes. So against the Machamp, I'm going to go Poison Powder right here, getting the poison status on. I'm also going to use Mimic here to get another move. And I guess we should just learn Submission. Not that it's going to do a lot of damage, but at least it allows us to chip a little bit here. And then I guess we can just rest in order to recover HP. And we're just kind of stalling for turns. His Submission does basically nothing. Of course, we could get hit by Fissure because we are slower. Still, I'm just going to sit here and spam and just hope that he doesn't land the hit with Fissure, allowing him to get the victory. And if so, we'll actually win against Bruno, even though we're massively underleveled here. The Poison Powder comes in at the perfect time, giving us the win against Bruno as we get to level 25 right here. That is nuts. So Bruno strats are a legit thing. I think we're now faster than everything on Koga's team. So there is a chance that we could go back to Koga now and get a victory. I'm not sure if that's the best play, but I think that's what I'm going to try here. Obviously, our stats are still a little low. I'm not sure how we would do against Agatha with this setup. I definitely don't think that we would actually get through Lance's Gyarados. We could beat Lorelei's first Dugong, but there I'm just not sure if we'd be able to deal enough damage to get through with our current moveset. So I do think it's best to go back to Sabrina's gym at this point. Let's get the heal on, and then we can go and try our hand at Koga. Now here we've already got the Mimic set up, so we'll be able to mimic the Minimize, and I think that's all we'll need. We just have to get through the first coughing, and I think we've got a chance. So Koga attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to just spam Psychic on the first coughing. It looks like we're getting a 2-hit KO, so that is perfectly fine. That will bring out the Muck. I'm going to Mimic Minimize right here. He tries to disable. That's perfectly fine. I'm just going to spam a bunch of Minimize. Hopefully he doesn't minimize too many times so that I can actually knock this Pokemon out. But I think we're going to get pretty reasonable ranges at this point, given our level. And I have slammed the PP ups into Psychic, so we do have more PP. We're just missing an awful lot here. Still, one more hit is all we need, and we do get through that Pokemon. We're on to the second coughing, which is just a 2-hitter, and that brings out the final wheezing. We have taken no damage. We hit Psychic. It goes self-destruct and hits, and we lose. Even though we had all the Minimize set up, we just couldn't get the miss. Still, we can see that this fight is clearly possible at this point. This time we take a Sludge from the Muck, which does massive damage. So we are going to need a little bit of luck here. I'm just going to set up all the Minimize, now go for Psychic, and we're just hoping to actually land the hits. I think we need one more. Sure enough, we get through with no misses on the Muck this time. So we've got a lot more PP. We can take down the coughing. It's on to the final wheezing. He X attacks turn 1. Now he self-destructs, and once again he hits. We just need him to miss. It's only like a 25% chance for him to hit when we get to that point. So once again, we could go for Substitute, but Substitute would lead to that Substitute self-destruct glitch where he doesn't actually faint after self-destructing. So I think resetting for this is the best way to go. The good news is we're getting to the final wheezing very consistently here. So it's just going to be about the luck to get the miss, which we finally get here on the third attempt. We take down Koga, and we get a level up to learn Leech Life, which I will relearn over Poison Powder so that we can take this move when we go to fight Sabrina later on. And just like that, we have gotten through another gym in 45 minutes, 34 seconds. I tried to do a little bit of resizing here, but the text didn't resize sufficiently. I'm going to have to mess with that a little bit later. But we can definitely see that our score rank is pretty bad. We're 27th out of 30 Pokemon up through the Koga gym, and we are 22nd out of 30 in terms of time, but I have been using a lot of speed up as mentioned before. So definitely take that for what you will, but we have 5 gym badges and we're ready to move on in this challenge now. And now we're getting reasonably fast. We're still a little slower than some of the Pokemon on Lorelei's team, but there is an argument for trying to go to Lorelei at this point. Granted, there's also an argument for trying Giovanni here. I'm not sure which is best, but I think I will try Giovanni first just to see if I can get this to work. I'm going to try my best to save rare candies in this one, which, given that we've beaten Bruno, gave us quite a few levels and probably means we don't need the rare candies quite as much. But let's just see how we do here against Giovanni. So Giovanni attempt number 1 right here. I'm just going to come in and mimic Horn Drill just to have that as a strategy later on. I think going for Horn Drill on the Rhyhorn just makes a lot of sense. We level up to level 28 right here. Now I'm just going to Psychic on the Dugtrio. It goes Slash and takes me to really low health, and then it Sand Attacks, but I do manage to get through that Pokemon at least. Now I'm going to rest against the Nidoqueen. She Body Slams here. He Guard Specs, and then she Body Slams again, and we couldn't land Horn Drill. On low health like that, I think Horn Drill's the only play there. She could also go Scratch, of course, which could have allowed us to get through. So honestly, I'm not sure what the best play is. It might be to actually have Reflect somewhere here. I'm not sure, but I'm going to try to keep this moveset if I can. Now, at this point, no matter what we do, we will be outsped by the Dugtrio and by the Nidoking, I believe. So we're still going to need a little bit of luck to get through this one. Let's just see what Psychic does against Nidoqueen. It looks like a 3-hit KO here. We get a Tail Whip and then another Tail Whip. I think we can Leech Life this Pokemon down. Sure enough, we can. We level up right here against the Nidoking, and we are 2 points in speed slower than this Pokemon. It goes Thrash, and I lose. So it's clearly very close, but not quite happening. I think there is an argument for trying our hand at Sabrina, but she's still going to be faster than us with her first Kadabra. So instead, I'm going to teleport out of here, and I think the time has come to at least try Lorelei. I'm not saying it's going to be good against Lorelei, but I do think there's a chance, so let's just see. So Lorelei attempt number 1, the first thing that I can say 100% is that this Dugong is free. The problem is we're just not dealing any damage to the Dugong. We would need a ton of special drops here in order to even stand a chance of taking it down with our current moveset. I don't think we can really afford to forget any of our moves. So this just doesn't seem to work at our current level, which is what I was afraid of. We don't have a badge boost in specials, so while we are getting a lot of special drops, which are improving our ranges here, we're just not going to deal enough damage to actually get the job done within the PP that we have. Like, we didn't even get through the Dugong, even though this Pokemon never damages me. And if we go for Leech Life, of course, it's going to do pitifully little, just absolutely nothing. And that's why this fight just simply cannot work. With that being said, there is at least an argument for testing Agatha here. Since we are going to have super effective moves here, maybe we just deal more damage and we can find a way through. Like, we would be slower than pretty much everything anyway, so it's just a question of how much damage our Psychic does against her Pokemon. Let's test this and see. So my strategy against Agatha is pretty simple. I'm going to go for the Mimic and try to get Hypnosis to put Pokemon to sleep since we are massively underleveled. Now let's see what Psychic does. Still, it's not looking great against this Gengar. We get a nice crit there and a special drop. I'm just concerned that we aren't going to have enough damage output to actually get through, especially considering that she does have super potions. So while we do take out the first Gengar, we get a level up to level 28 right here. The Golbat hits Wing Attack, dealing massive damage. We put it to sleep, but we're still not getting a great range here, and then we simply get knocked out after that. It might be a question of how many crits and or special drops we get here though, so I'm going to test this a few times. But there it does simply seem like we're taking too much damage, so that makes me think we just have to go back to Sabrina's gym. We go back to Giovanni, and we basically just pray that he goes for like a guard spec on that Nidoking. I think that's really the only chance we've got. So we're just going to grind away at this one for a little while. There is an argument for using a couple of rare candies to outspeed against the Nidoking, but I really do want to avoid them if I can, since we saw last time what using those early rare candies did to this Pokemon. So we're just going to be resetting here for a fair bit of luck, at least for a little while. This isn't like a perfectly optimized run. It's just intended to be a slight improvement on the previous run. Pretty much if we have any Tail Whips, we can't really go for rest against the Nidos because they'll simply deal too much damage. Like, even the Rhyhorn after one defense drop is doing over half to us with a Stomp. And this is just because our defense stat is really bad in this one. So there's really just not much we can do about that situation. So at this point, it just seems like we need to change our moveset somehow. I think the move that has to go is Rest. We're just not survivable enough here. So I'm going to replace Rest with Reflect. This is kind of sad to do because we can't get Rest back, but I do think it is the best strategy here, on the basis that once we replace Rest with Reflect, we can theoretically survive more physical hits, and maybe that's all we need to get through this one. So I will go for Reflect here against the first Rhyhorn since it lasts the whole battle anyway. I will still try to use Psychic to knock out the Rhyhorn here, just to keep the PP for the later threats where I really think we need to have access to Horn Drill. Here, whenever we're on lower HP, I'm going to try to Horn Drill against the Nidoqueen. We just miss multiple times in a row, and by the time we do get through, we're only on 3 HP remaining. We get 6 HP after the level up, but if Nidoking doesn't go for the guard spec, we just have no shot there whatsoever. Now this is all just going to be about getting to the Nidoking with decent HP, and then basically using Mimic for the final ride-on. That is basically my plan. Let's see if it can ever actually work out though. If we take a slash from Dugtrio, we are basically dead, and the accuracy drops here are also pretty terrible. Still, we managed to get through that one. We're back to Nidoqueen where we land Horn Drill. So we're going to the Nidoking on green HP. It hits Thrash, and I miss lose my first Psychic due to a single Sand attack here, but then he guard specs. That allows me to get to the final Rhydon. We get a level up and learn Stun Spore. I'm just going to skip this move though. I don't think it's useful enough. Now we need to land Horn Drill on the Rhydon, and we of course missed. We had a Sand attack and it's already an inaccurate move, so we simply lose to the Rhydon when he stomps. Still, we can get to Rhydon, so that tells me that we do have a chance here. It should also be noted on that previous run to Rhydon though, that we got the equivalent of a Gen 1 miss. It hit Slash, but it didn't get a crit, which is a 1 in 256 chance in this generation. Any other time when he hits Slash and crits, we simply get completely wrecked. Another attempt back at the Nidoking with decent HP. We get the same sort of luck where we miss the first Psychic due to a single accuracy drop. So we're going to have to try this one yet again. Basically, we really need this Dugtrio to decide that it wants to growl, and only growl. If we can get that, we have decent chances of getting through. Anything less than that, we get wrecked. This time we got a Gen 1 miss from Slash. So once again, we get to at least do something here. I really want to recover some HP, which is why I'm using the Leech Life here. It just doesn't heal back enough quickly enough, so there's no way that we get enough HP to actually move on. And while we could argue for going for something like Mega Drain here, I just don't think that it's going to be enough to get us through here. It would definitely be good against the Rhyhorn and the final Rhydon, but we would have to give up either Psychic Reflect or Leech Life for that. Mimic is going to be too important later on. Still, I am getting a lot of runs where I'm getting to like the Dugtrio on low health, so maybe it is worth it to go for the Mega Drain over the Reflect here. Let's just test it and see. So we'll give up the extra defensiveness in order to be able to heal effectively against the first couple Pokemon here. Mega Drain is clearly 2-hit KOing the Rhyhorn. We almost get back to full health there. Let's see what it does against Dugtrio when we actually do hit. It looks like this is a 4-hit KO, which kind of makes sense. It's going to be weaker than using Psychic. Of course, when we get hit by Slash there, we're just getting wrecked. We have to try this again. This time we get to Nidoqueen on full health, so I think we can try to go Psychic here. We managed to get the 3-hitter as she just tail whips on me a couple times. I'm worried about the Nidoking's damage though, given that we are on low defense and he just 2-shots me with Horn Attack. So sure enough, that does not work if we get so many tail whips. I went for it that way because we took like 3 sand attacks from the Dugtrio, so I thought that was my best play, but it definitely just did not work in the end. But after grinding at this for a while, there just doesn't seem to be a way through, so I think we've finally reached the point where we just have to rare candy here. I'm going to drop 2, I'm going to keep the rest, and let's see if we can manage to outspeed that Nidoking. Here we level up to level 30, and we are now faster than that Pokemon, so it's just about the ranges. We hit Horn Drill on Nidoqueen, we miss on Nidoking, he goes Thrash, and we get wrecked by a crit. We had a couple of accuracy drops there as well, so really not much we could do in that situation. We just have to hope for better luck. Back to Nidoking on the next attempt, we do hit Horn Drill this time. That brings us to the Rhydon. I'm going to try Mega Drain here, because this looks like a simple 3-hit KO. As long as he doesn't get a crazy stomp on me, I should win. We've run out of Mega Drains, but Psychic does appear to be enough to get him down if we land one more hit. He stomps me to 7 HP, but I finally managed to get it and get to level 32. It took 1 hour, 14 minutes, 20 seconds there. Giovanni just is not consistent. We're up to 186 resets. Really not great. Still, we are progressing, and we still have more rare candies in the bag than last time. Plus, we're now faster than the Kadabra on Sabrina's team, so we should have a chance there. Let's get into that fight and see how this actually goes. So Sabrina attempt number 1, I'm going to lead off with Leech Life on the first Kadabra. We do that much, and then Psychic takes me down, at least with a crit. We might need a Psybeam or something here, I'm honestly not sure. Let's just keep testing this for a little bit. We can actually survive a Psychic here, but we're not quite 2-hit KOing. So we would need a critical hit here, I think, in order to actually take Kadabra down. We get Psybeam this time, but we can see it's still a 2-hitter against us. So anything less than a crit does not get us through. We do have a 17, almost 18% critical hit chance. So it's not that getting the crit here is impossible. We just will need quite a bit of luck to get it to go. This time we get the crit, but then she gets the range with Psychic to simply one-shot me. Psychic is a range here. We need the crit plus for her to go Psybeam. This time we might have just gotten a high roll. Sure enough, we did, so we didn't quite get the KO in 2 hits. This time we actually managed to get through Kadabra. We're 2 Mr. Mime, and we are faster, but if it goes Confusion, I'm getting wrecked. It goes Light Screen here. Now Light Screen again, and we get the KO. That brings us to the enemy Venomoth, where it's going to go Leech Life or Psybeam against me. I'm going to Leech Life first to try to regain HP. Psybeam did pretty significant damage. It looks like maybe Psychic will 2-hit KO here. Let's try this again. We get back to the Venomoth this time. Let's try our Psychic. It does slightly less than half. It goes Leech Life against me, and then we get the special drop. I'm just going to Leech Life this one down from here. That brings us to the final Alakazam. It can go Reflect, or it could get a bad roll with Psywave and give me a chance. Instead, it goes Psybeam, and we get destroyed. So it's pretty clear that that fight is at least not great. We're going to need a lot of luck there. So I say we go back and try Lorelei again, and try Agatha again, and maybe even take a chance at Lance, since we know that 3 of his Pokemon will never damage us. But I'm going to try Lorelei first, because I think there's a Mimic strat that can get us through there. So back to Lorelei again here. I'm going to lead off with Psychic in this one, hoping to get the special drops on this first Dugong. We know it won't attack, so that's all I think we need from this Pokemon. We're just looking for a run where we get a whole lot of special drops in this fight against this first Pokemon. So I'm basically fine just using up all of the Psychics here. We just have to get it in a range where it looks like it's a 3-hit KO after that though, because currently Mega Drain will not deal enough damage to actually get through after that. We do force her to drop Super Potions, but she's just going to rest after that, so that did not work. We're going to need a better range with the special drops in this one. This time we do manage to get through the first Dugong, so now we're just going to spam Mega Drain on the Cloyster. It goes Clamp. That's not what I wanted to see. Spike Cannon is definitely better here, but then we get confused and we get clamped and we lose. It might be worth going Psychic there as well to try to get special drops. This time, unfortunately, though, we don't have any Psychics left, so we just have to spam Mega Drain. We kind of like Aurora Beam. We really would like Spike Cannon here, something that allows us to not take a ton of damage, but also whittle that Pokemon down. Our goal is to get to Slowbro. This time, we get a much better range against the Cloyster. We get to the Slowbro, still on full health. I'm going to mimic Amnesia here. I'm going to set it up 3 times. I know Slowbro's going Amnesia against me too. That's fine. I'm getting badge boosts and attack, and then I'm just going to sit here and spam Leech Life. Since this Pokemon will never attack us, it's just going to go Amnesia infinitely. We may as well use up this PP and then try to use our other moves to get through the last 2 Pokemon. We managed to get through. We're on to Jinx. Here, I'm going to go Leech Life. She goes Body Slam. Now we get Thrash, which does massive damage. She Super Potions. We're still just spamming Leech Life here. We run out of PP in that, but we can Mega Drain, and Jinx knocks itself out. We've made it to Lapras. Mega Drain does pretty good damage. We heal. Blizzard won't do enough because of the Amnesia boost. The problem is that we're almost out of PP. If she Super Potions, I think we get wrecked. No, we actually get the range, so we do manage to beat Lorelei. It took 9 attempts there. The whole luck of that one, though, is really about how many special drops you get on the first Dugong, and therefore how much PP you have left after you get through that first Pokemon. And then on the Cloyster, you need a really good range. After you get to the Slowbro, though, it's Mimic Amnesia time, and you can get that one to work out. That still leaves us with 5 rare candies in the bag at this point, too, so we've got a better range than we had last time. I'm going to try to go to Agatha after healing here. One of the things about being able to move freely is that we would technically be able to get out and heal in between the Elite Four members, or we could slam our full restores and elixirs there. That would work too. But for now, let's just get to Agatha again and see if we can manage a victory now. So we're back to Agatha. We've gained quite a few levels since the last time we were here. So once again, I will mimic Hypnosis. and try to put these Pokemon to sleep. We finally managed to get Gengar to sleep here. Let's see the range. It looks like Psychic is generally a 5-hit KO there. She swaps to Golbat, which is still faster than me, and hits the wing attack and I lose. Still, let's just try this a few more times to see if we can get better luck. We all kind of know Agatha's always going to be luck-based. You could be level 100 here and still find situations where you lose. Maybe not with a Pokemon using a Psychic type move, but definitely with a lot of Pokemon that are at least dealing neutral damage here, they would actually still have trouble at level 100 in this fight. Still, once we get Golbat to sleep, we're going to manage to knock it out this time. We've made it to Haunter. It lands Hypnosis on me, which is terrible, and it goes Nightshade and Nightshade again, and I lose. If we could have avoided getting put to sleep, we might have had a chance there. This time we're back to Haunter again. It once again lands Hypnosis. It goes Confuse Ray. Now Dream Eater just ends me because of my own weakness to Psychic. We finally get a run at Haunter where it doesn't put me to sleep, but it did go for Nightshade, and we're still slower than this Pokemon, and we just hit ourselves in confusion and lose after it wakes up. So we're gonna need a lot more luck than that to get through this. I'm not honestly sure if we can actually get this to go within a reasonable number of attempts, or is it just going to be a situation where it's like technically possible, but it's functionally impossible actually fighting the battles. This time she swaps to Arbok from the Haunter. I am just a little bit slower than this Pokemon, but we get a nice crit there. Then we get a Screech giving us a badge boost. As she goes back to Haunter, we are now just faster than this Pokemon, only by a very small margin, but I'm going to take this opportunity to recover some HP with Leech Life since I do have the speed advantage. I just want to make sure that I can survive a couple of random hits from the final Gengar, but we are going to the last Pokemon here. It goes Confuse Ray. I hit Hypnosis. It's asleep. I snap out of Confusion. We need a special drop really bad here, and we are not getting it. We finally get it right there, though, and she stays asleep, so we finally beat Agatha after 11 attempts. Not the prettiest fight, but we did manage to get it to go. And with that, I think we can even try Lance before we go back to Sabrina. Obviously, we beat Lance. We go to Sabrina and Blaine. We try to get that to go. We've got 5 rare candies in the bag. Currently, we wouldn't quite get to Sleep Powder with this. There could be an argument for learning Toxic here in order to have that as a strat on top of everything else. I'm honestly not sure. There's also an argument for going for Reflect here in order to try to get a situation where we can reduce physical damage against us. We're just going to have to see how this goes, but I'm going to test it once against Lance at least and see. So Lancey Boy attempt number 1. I'm going Psychic on the first Gyarados. We get a special drop, but we see we did pitifully little. It goes Dragon Rage against me. I get another special drop the next turn. It's back to Dragon Rage. We can survive one more hit from that, but we did not get the range to knock the Gyarados out, so we lose. Let's try this again, but this is not looking great. Hyper Beam, of course, when it hits, one hit KOs me, and there's nothing I can do about that. What we really want to see here is Leer, but no Hyper Beam, and Hydro Pump can miss, Hyper Beam can miss, Dragon Rage will not knock me out fast enough, I don't think. So that's really what we're going for. We get a Hydro Pump after we get a special drop, but unfortunately it still knocks me out. So this is definitely super luck based to get through this fight. Still, it helps a lot that Gyarados is randomizing and can miss. We just have to avoid that Hyper Beam at all costs. Still, it doesn't quite seem to be working, so I am going to make my way back to Sabrina at this point, and let's just see if we can manage to beat her now that we've gained a couple levels. So back to Sabrina here. Let's go Leech Life on the first Kadabra. We're doing over half now, and Psychic without a crit will not one-shot me, though we did get a special drop there, which is pretty bad. Mr. Mime looks like a 3-hitter before it goes for Barrier here, so we're really just hoping for no Confusion. We actually survived Confusion when it used it there, though. We could level up and learn Psybeam right here. I'm going to skip the move. I just don't think that we need it. That brings us to the Venomoth, where, of course, if it goes Psybeam and I've got a special drop, I get wrecked. We're gonna have to try this one again. This time we crit the Kadabra. We don't quite get the one-hit KO though, and then it gets to go Psybeam against me again. Not much we can do there other than just Mega Drain it down from that level. Mr. Mime, we're really hoping that it goes for not Confusion for at least a turn. Unfortunately, it confused me and I got wrecked. This time we get back to the Venomoth though. I can hit Psychic doing over half. We survive its Psybeam now when we have decent HP, and that brings us to Alakazam. It hits Psybeam Psywave and does nothing, but we hit ourselves in confusion. Then it goes Reflect. We would need a critical hit there to have a chance. We just didn't get it that time. Still, the ranges are looking better than they were before, so we have to just keep grinding this because I think eventually we can get the victory. This time we're getting to Alakazam on high green health. It goes Psywave on me. I get a nice hit with Leech Life there. It Psywaves again. Now it's Psybeams. We survive and we get the victory on Sabrina. 4 attempts after we come back from beating Agatha. It took 1 hour 41 minutes 8 seconds to get through that. Our time and score are definitely still towards the bottom of all Pokemon on these settings, but we have managed to at least get through a lot of the game. 3 Elite Four members plus 7 gyms. Blaine's still out there. Lance is still out there. The champion's still out there. That is it. So we have to see if we can manage to get this to go. But at this point, we could drop the rare candies and get to Sleep Powder, something that we couldn't do last time until we reached the champion. So that does help quite a bit here. But I think we're going to have to try our hand at Blaney Boy just to see if we can get a victory. I'm not saying it's going to be pretty, but it is worth at least trying. Otherwise, we'll go back to Lance and then come back here. But I think we need that badge boost one way or the other to get through the champion. Let's just see how Blaine goes here. So Blaney Boy attempt number 1 right here. I'm going to go Psychic first. He goes Agility, then he Super Potions, but it looks like this is just a simple 2-hit KO on this Pokemon. Ember didn't do that much, so we do manage to get through the Growlithe. That brings us to Ponyta. We one-shot with a crit. We're faster already than Rapidash. It gets me in the Fire Spin, but it's really not doing that much damage. So I think we can get through this one. Sure enough, we can. We make it to Arcanine, which we also outspeed. We get a special drop, but Fire Blast will still into me. I need Ember there if I'm going to have a shot, or those full health Super Potions. This time we get to Arcanine again, but on lower health. We get the special drop, but even that's not enough to save us from the Ember at the end. I think only Super Potions and multiple special drops would have allowed us to survive there. So it's definitely going to be very luck-based. This time we get to the Arcanine still on high green health. He Super Potions turn 1. We get a crit turn 2 and he misses Fire Blast. We get this special drop as he goes for the second Super Potion. Now he hits Fire Blast, but because he's taken multiple special drops, it didn't do enough, and we can simply knock that Pokemon out, getting to level 40. So this time, unlike the previous run, we actually did manage to beat Blaine. It took 1 hour 44 minutes 23 seconds to get the job done, and we're up to 239 resets, but we have completed the 8 Kanto gyms. We have a badge boost in special now, and now we can go back to fight against Lancey Boy, but this time we'll be doing more damage. That is massive because it means we might actually have a chance at the champion at the end. Now I had an accidental reset that caused me to go back before Blaine, so I'm simply frozen his Pokemon and allowed myself to knock them out again because we saw we legitimately got through him. I will knock that freeze status off here. The issue was this: when we try to teleport back to Lance, because we already went to the Lance fight once, he closes the doors behind you. I have to see if I can figure out how to get this to not work, but I think the simplest way is to use my walk through walls button that I already have programmed in. This is simply because the doors shut behind me and there was no way to actually go back and fight Lance. If we tried to go to the champion's room, we would simply have to fight the champion, and we definitely need the XP here. So just take that for what you will. I have used a walk through walls in order to get through this barrier here, but with that done, we can now actually fight against Lancey Boy. Let's see how he goes. But another quick note from Tale from the Future here, I was also testing out a new feature in my overlay at this time where I was trying to restore data from the last gym leader victory. It was supposed to save after every gym leader gets defeated, but it appears that that did not work properly. So the score got changed from 51.1, which was the actual score, to 63.7 after I reset all of my overlay data. So I'm going to have to dig into what exactly happened there, but just note that the actual score is 12.6 points lower than this, and that will affect things just a little bit. So our actual score at this point is 51.1. So we're back to Lance at level 40, which means we got a damage rounding threshold and everything, but I didn't recover PP coming in. So we're going to have to fix that very quickly. Fortunately, we still have a couple elixirs and we have the 5 rare candies in the bag. So let's just try this one again. So now properly healed, we can go Psychic against the Gyarados. We get a nice special drop, but a critical hit Hydro Pump one-shots me. We're going to need better luck than that, obviously. This time we get the Hydro Pump miss as we get a special drop. We get a Leer that actually boosts our special now. That gets him in Hyper Potion range, but we are whittling this Pokemon down. So for the first time, we get to go to a Dragonair. I'm going to mimic the move Agility, but I'm not actually going to use it just yet. Instead, I'm going to sit here and just spam Leech Life to get HP back. Since we know that this Dragonair will never damage me, I think we need to save our other moves for the Aerodactyl that's coming up. And here, I think getting the Aerodactyl with as much HP as possible is the key, but we should level up after this Pokemon. Then we can set up the Agilities to get badge boosts, and that should give us the best chance of possibly getting through here. So fortunately, we can get through that Dragonair on full health now, thanks to the badge boosts. We're going to set up all the agilities right here, and then I'm going to spam Psychic on this Pokemon. It looks like a 3-hit KO, but that's perfectly fine. That will bring us to Aerodactyl. I've got 2 Psychics left. It goes Takedown and gets a crit, one-shotting me. We're going to have to try this one again. A few attempts later, we're back to Aerodactyl, though. We hit Psychic. It goes Bite, and this looks like a 3-hit KO. It misses Supersonic. That allows me to get through. I'm out of PP in Psychic and Leech Life here, so we can only go Mega Drain, which is obviously resisted, but our goal is just to get as much HP back as possible before we're eventually going to have to go Struggle here. I'm not sure if this is going to be enough. We'll just have to see. We're really hoping for some sort of like critical hit here to get through the barriers that have already been set up by the Dragonite. And we're really hoping that he doesn't go for a Hyper Potion here, which is a high probability, but we knock it out only to knock ourselves out and lose. Oh no. We are coming in with full PP here. I'm going to slam this last elixir. We can technically go save before the champion, but we might just need a stronger move on the moveset. I think we have a strong justification for going for the TM6 here to go for Toxic, since this would be good against pretty much everything. I think we learned this move and forget Mega Drain, though we could forget Leech Life too. I guess against the champions team, I would rather have Leech Life for the Exeggutor, so I'm going to keep Leech Life. I'm going to forget Mega Drain here, and let's go Toxic strats. Let's see how this goes. Of course, we're still going to need a lot of luck on the Gyarados to not hit a super strong move and KO me, but this should be possible now. Once we get to the Dragonair now, we'll simply mimic the move Agility after setting up Toxic, get all the setup here, and then I'm just going to spam Leech Life in order to get HP back. I accidentally set up 1 agility on the previous Dragonair. I'll finish my setup here, go for Toxic, and then once again spam Leech Life just to get as much HP back as possible as this one slowly goes down to Chip. So we get back to Aerodactyl on full health. We can hit Psychic. It misses Supersonic. Now it goes Hyper Beam, and we get wrecked. We need not Hyper Beam there if we're going to get through. So here on the Dragonair, after getting Toxic and mimicking Agility, I am just going to once again use Leech Life to get as much HP back as possible as it slowly gets chipped down. That brings us to the second Dragonair. I'm going to set up all the Agilities right here, and then I'm going to try to use this Pokemon again to recover HP off of just as much as I can before I go to that Aerodactyl. Turns out that we do knock it out. We're back to green health at least as Aerodactyl comes out. We hit Psychic, we get hit by Supersonic. Now it goes Takedown, dealing pretty significant damage. It misses Supersonic, but then we hit ourselves in confusion and get knocked out. So just not quite back to the Dragonite yet. This time we can get back to full health on the Dragonair. So we're back to Aerodactyl again. We get a special drop turn 1 as it misses Takedown. Now Bite doesn't do enough. So we finally get back to the Dragonite. We can set up Toxic, and now I'm just spamming Agility for a bunch of turns. I'm just going to let it slowly build up the Toxic here. We can go Psychic at this point to try to chip it down faster, and we get the victory on Lancey Boy, getting to level 42. Now, the big difference here is that with this setup, we have reached the champion, but we've reached the champion with rare candies in the bag. We can drop all 5 of these, which I promise we're gonna need them. The first one allows us to learn the move Sleep Powder, which I think I can learn over Mimic. The question is, do we want to mimic a move for the Charizard at the end though? Because there could be a pretty strong argument for trying to mimic something like Hydro Pump there in order to get an advantage. I don't know. I might forget Toxic here in order to learn the Sleep Powder. Obviously, we couldn't use the 2 moves on the same Pokemon, but after that, I'm just going to slam the rest of the rare candies, and I'm going to actually teleport back to Sabrina's gym once in order to heal and get full PP. Technically possible on this setting, and now we can go to the champion's room. I'm going to save the game right here, and there we go. We are ready to fight against the champion. GSC Pokemon challenges. He stomped on us once, and we're slower than the Charizard right now. Unless we level up like maybe 2 times in this fight, or maybe get a good range with, you know, maybe getting a Leer from the Gyarados, we might be wrecked. We're just gonna have to see, but let's test this and find out. So champion attempt number 1 right here. We're going Sleep Powder all the way on Pidgeot. We do not want this Pokemon to be able to land any strong moves against me. We get a special drop with the first Psychic and the second Psychic, so we're getting through that Pokemon. Out comes Alakazam. It goes Reflect, which is fine, I think. I'm going to switch into the Leech Life here. We're kind of hoping for a crit against this Pokemon. We don't get it. It wakes up and hits Psychic, and we lose. Still, maybe Psybeam doesn't one-shot, and there's a way to get through right there. Here, he's stayed asleep the maximum number of turns, so I'm just going to Sleep Powder again when he wakes up. And we just need 1 more hit to get through Alakazam this time. We do. That brings us to Rhydon, where we can just go for Psychic the whole way. Yes, it's going to deal a little bit of damage with the Fury attack, but it's not enough that I think we need to worry about it. We just barely missed the range to KO there, but we'll knock it out with Leech Life after that. We can put Exeggutor to sleep, and it's 4 times weak to the Leech Life, so we're just going to spam this move till we take this one down. When it wakes up, I have to try to put it back to sleep because he's always going to try to put me to sleep, and here we're just getting barraged down as we're asleep for so many turns. Oh no, we finally wake up only to get stomped and wrecked. Still, we got further this time. We're just gonna have to see if we can actually manage to get the victory. This time we get Alakazam to sleep after a Psybeam, and it looks like just a 4-hit KO here. Unfortunately, it wakes up and I get wrecked. But that tells us that if we do get Psybeamed, we can survive and at least have a chance there as well. This time we get through Alakazam on full health. I'm going to try to put the Rhydon to sleep, and now just spam Psychic. We got a special drop. He full restores, but we'll just 2-hit KO that Pokemon from there. Back to Exeggutor, we put it to sleep, and back to our Leech Lives, just hoping it stays asleep enough turns. We do manage to get the victory. That brings us to Gyarados, and we will not level up on this Pokemon. If we can get 1 Leer, we would have a chance here. I'm going to mimic the move Hydro Pump. He goes Hyper Beam, which is not the move I wanted to see because it just one-shots me after the defense drop. So no chance there. But if we get 1 Leer, we actually have a chance to get through this one. This time we get through there with no defense drops, which is nice. I finally put Exeggutor asleep after we both missed sleep twice in a row. We get like a 4-hit KO range when we don't get any tail whips, but we got a nice crit, so we do take that one down in only 3 hits. I'm going to put the Gyarados to sleep first and get access to the Hydro Pump right here. Then I'm going to try to whittle this into a range where I can 1-hit KO. When it wakes up in Hyper Beams, we actually survive, which is nice. Still, I want this one in a range where I at least have a chance to knock it out after it wakes up. And then we're just hoping that it goes Leer. It goes Dragon Rage, and now Hydro Pump, and we lose. We just needed Leer there, and we had a couple chances to get that move. We just didn't get the luck for him to randomly use it. This time we get back to the Gyarados, but we did take a defense drop. Still, mimic Hydro Pump and pray for a Leer here is basically the name of the game. Unfortunately, yet again, we just don't get it from that Pokemon. It is, of course, simple randomization there. It's just a 1 in 4 chance that we get the Leer. Otherwise, we get wrecked. In all likelihood, the actual best play is to just go for Substitute here and hope that we can get a Fire Blast rather than Fire Spin from the final Charizard. I just don't want to take the 10-point drop if I don't have to, since we're still sitting at about 50 right now on the score, and I would prefer to get this Pokemon through with a reasonable score if possible. Still, we make it back to Gyarados, only to get Hyper Beamed. Come on, give me a Leer. We finally get the Leer we were looking for. Now we can put this Pokemon to sleep. Mimic Hydro Pump. I'm going to put it to sleep again when it wakes up, and now Psychic over and over again to hopefully end this one. He goes for the Hyper Potion there and then wakes up twice in a row. Still, we get Gyarados back to sleep, get a nice special drop. We should have enough PP to get through this one. That brings us to the Charizard. We are faster. We hit the sleep. We're going to go for the Mimicked Hydro Pump, and this appears to be a 2-hitter. So finally, it's taken 2 hours and 20 minutes, but we managed to beat the champion this time. Now, as mentioned, Venomoth did have a slightly lower score than what was showing at the end there. It was 12.6 points higher than it should have been, which means its actual score comes out to be 37.2, slotting it in just a little bit ahead of the Arbok. It turns out that Venomoth is actually worse than things like Raticate or Magneton here, though it is still better than the first run that we did by a pretty large margin, because we couldn't beat the champion and we couldn't beat Blaine in that previous setup. But when you do allow a Pokemon to simply choose whatever route it wants through the game, fighting Elite Four members whenever you feel like it, you actually reach a point where Venomoth is kind of legit OP. Still, I'm really excited to see how this new setup does for the other Pokemon that are still in the tier list, because I think a Pokemon like Golbat, a Pokemon like Fearow, a Pokemon like Pidgeot really deserve another try at this challenge now that they can get the advantage of actually going to fight people like Bruno or Agatha earlier on, getting themselves some extra experience before they have to go back to that Lorelei fight that walled them. In fact, if there's any Pokemon that I think would not improve given the change that I've made to this ROM, it's really only going to be Ninetales, because Ninetales got to Lance and that was the point where it simply hit a wall. It had already beaten everything else in the game, so it just stands to reason that that's probably the Pokemon that's not going to quite work out for us in the end. Still, it will be worth a test, because maybe with slightly different routing we could save rare candies at some point and maybe end up at a higher level when we actually get to the Lance fight and find some way through. We're just gonna have to test that and see, but for now, leave comments down below. Tell me what you think about this different style of the ROM hack, because I think a lot of our challengers are going to be itching for a redo with this one. That may be some live stream action coming at you guys pretty soon. Anyway, with that, that's enough for Tale from the future. I'll get you back to the original action. But with that, our rival is going to say, why did I lose? He's basically, pulling the whole Bruto thing when he loses here. And we're going to tell him it's because we figured out a way to fight any trainer in any order. And that makes Venomoth one of the ultimate powers in the universe, clearly. So while we have only a score of about 49, we can definitely say that this score is 100% better than what we got previously. In fact, it's technically infinitely better than what we got previously. So we'll take it. And we will register this Venomoth into the Hall of Fame. So with that, let me just give a massive thank you to the channel members and everybody who watches to the end. That was a lot of fun. This was a really long video to make, and I'm assuming it's going to be a pretty long one to watch. But definitely tell me down below how you felt about this sort of format. Do you think that it's legitimate? I personally think that it's fine on the basis that technically, if we're basing the entire run on using Glitch City to go wherever we want to in the map, then we should be able to go to the Elite Four members in different orders. Like I said, the only reason I didn't do this previously is because I was still figuring out how to actually implement it in a way that would allow me to go to each individual league member and then backtrack. I'm still going to have to fix the issue of Lance closing the doors behind you, and we can see that the ROM just completely glitched out there at the end. But now I'll share a little bit of information in advance with you guys. We have two special battles here at the end when you actually manage to defeat the champion. If I distribute this, which I'm getting pretty close to, this guy right here is of course Professor Oak. He is blocking you from leaving Palatown, and this right here, he's actually RBY Pokemon Challenges. I know he looks kind of blue, so you might think he's GSC Pokemon Challenges, but he's actually RBY Pokemon Challenges, just masquerading as the champion. And there's like a random Professor Oak floating above the lab there, but just ignore that guy. He doesn't matter. This is fine. This is all fine. But I say, what the heck? Let's go ahead and show you guys a preview of what it is to fight against Professor Oak here, but then to fight against RBY Pokemon Challenges, which, trust me, Professor Oak has nothing on RBY Pokemon Challenges here. I'm going to save the game. Let's just see how this goes. Of course, magnificent RBY PC, you've conquered the Pokemon League, but the journey doesn't end here. I want to test your strength myself. Here we go. Professor Oak, he leads off with his Tauros. I came in unhealed. Oh no. Let's go talk to Mommy real quick. Run to Mommy. We need to get that HP so that we can come and fight Okie Boy here. Coming back properly healed, I will try to put Tauros to sleep. It's just going Rage. This is fine. Everything is fine here. I will now just go for Psychic on this Pokemon. We're building its Rage, but that shouldn't matter. We still get the victory right there. Exeggutor comes out. This is a perfect spot for us to recover HP, though we are under leveled, so we are taking quite a few turns to actually knock this one out. Still, I think we'll get to full HP as long as we can keep this one asleep, and sure enough, we do. That gets us to level 50 as Arcanine comes out. Of course, Arcanine is the ultimate power in the universe, but we managed to still put it to sleep. We get a nice special drop, then we get a Gen 1 miss. Oh, Professor Oak cheesing out here. Still, we will manage to knock this Pokemon out, so perfectly fine. That brings out Charizard, and his Charizard is faster, and it knows Flamethrower. Oh no. We actually survived though. Wait a second. We have a chance. Oh, but he wakes up immediately. Oh, the level 69 Charizard just completely stunts on us here. We're gonna have to try this one again. Clearly though, there are chances, and we have to heal. Come on. Come on. Clear mistakes have been made. Still, this is fine. I don't think there's really anything to do with our moveset. We're just going to have to see if we can get the victory or not. We like whenever Tauros goes for Rage. We just don't like when it crits. Clearly, Oak just needs to learn to give his Tauros the proper moveset, and then he could totally stunt on us. Unfortunately, he's basically being like his grandson here with his Exeggutor, not teaching it any same type moves. You know, a supposed Pokemon professor can't figure out what moves to teach to an Exeggutor. We do manage to put this Pokemon back to sleep, fortunately, so we are going to get a chance to recover some HP, but this is looking pretty bad because we're not landing sleeps as much as last time, so I think we're getting wrecked. Sure enough, we do. Let's try this again properly. So this time we're back to the Charizard. It once again hits Flamethrower. We put it to sleep. We really need some good luck here with this Pokemon just staying asleep for a lot of turns as we use Psychic. We get a nice special drop and a crit. So we get through to the final Gyarados. We can put it to sleep. I'm going to mimic a move here. I think Dragon Rage is the one just because we're about to run out of PP and Psychic. We get a nice special drop there. It wakes up. We put it back to sleep, back to Psychic. It should be 2 hit here from the Dragon Rage. And finally, we managed to beat Okie Boy. We've made it to level 51. So now we can come run back to our mommy because we're about to look at the single hardest battle that has ever existed in the history of the Pokemon franchise. But I should warn you, this is only the first of 2 battles against RBY Pokemon Challenges because there is an entire post game to this. If I release it, we're not going to do it today. This video is already long enough, but Oak is going to tell you, I knew you had it in you, but now someone else wants to test your skill, and it is RBY Pokemon Challenges. You bested the professor, now see if you can handle me. We come in with the legendary Godcarp, level 70, Spore, Dream Eater, Surf, and Growth. Fortunately, this Venomoth is actually powerful enough to take on the Godcarp. That brings out, however, Goddle 42069, a Pokemon that can go Poison Sting or String Shot. You're lucky that it went String Shot there, allowing us to try to knock this one out with Psychic. We get a nice special drop as we get another speed drop here. Those speed drops could be important because while we're gonna knock out Goddle 42069, that brings out Surfzilla, the level 77 Rhydon, with Surf, Blizzard, Fire Blast, and Thunder. It hits the Fire Blast. We fortunately survive, but we get burned. This is terrible. We get Fire Blasted again, and we're getting completely wrecked. by Surfzilla, you will notice that all of these Pokemon are from some of my all-time just favorite personal runs that I have done on the channel. Godcarp is obviously far too powerful. Goddle for 2069, also an absolute beast of a Pokemon. And look how tanky this Weedle is at level 255 here. We do manage to get through it again though, so we're back to Surfzilla. We get the Fire Blast, we get burned, but now we can try to mimic Surf here. That might actually be a good play. I will now just use Surf to one-shot that Pokemon, so good strategy there. That brings out Henry the Arcanine at level 80. Everybody knows this is my personal Pokemon. The Fire Blast will end us. However, I'm just going to show you how ridiculous this fight does become by simply allowing myself to get this Ultramoth to level 100, just because I want you guys to actually see what the full team is here and to understand the utter impossibility of ever defeating RBY Pokemon challenges. But just understand that if you do, there is a round 2 that is even harder than this one, and that is going to be a secret that I will keep forever until somebody actually manages to get there. Because I will tell you right now that this level 100 Venomoth is effectively guaranteed to lose against the round 2. There are only a few Pokemon that can ever beat the round 2, and those Pokemon are using a move that you would never guess in order to actually win the final battle. In fact, it's a move that I'm willing to bet right now that nobody will ever have on their moveset by the time they get to the end of the game. Anyway, here we can come back into this fight. Now we can just destroy Godcarp. The Goddle for 2069 is still faster than this Venomoth at level 255. That brings out Surfzilla. We're going to put it to sleep. We're going to mimic Surf because we know that this is a good move against this Pokemon and the next Pokemon. That will bring out KO Kitty at level 85, the Pokemon that knows Fissure, Horn Drill, Thunder Wave, and Soft Boiled. Here's the thing. Let's just go Leech Life here. Let's see what it does. KO Kitty is trying to Horn Drill us. Granted, it can recover HP, and it has the Thunder Wave, so it does have a strategy to try to knock you out. Here, it gets the Thunder Wave. Now it goes Soft Boiled. We're going to need to put this Pokemon to sleep to have a shot, because otherwise it's going to heal too much. We do finally get through, and we're to the final MUI Mew 3, whose moveset is Recover, Amnesia, Psychic, and Barrier. So if you don't have a way to put this Pokemon to sleep, I think you just get wrecked by the fact that it knows this moveset. Basically, you're either going to get psychicked down, or you're going to be dealing with the situation of not being able to deal enough damage to knock it out. And of course, one amnesia into psychic is enough to end us. Still, that level 100 Mewtwo right there, I guarantee loses to the final battle against RBY Pokemon challenges. There is no way, I would say functionally impossible for that Mewtwo to ever win that fight. But still with that, you get the chance to see what I have in store for you. After you beat RBY Pokemon challenges, you're going to have to rematch all of the gym leaders and the Elite Four, all of them using smart AI and much, much better teams at much higher levels. But the other thing that I'm working on here that I haven't quite gotten working yet is that I'm going to reset your Pokemon to level 5 so that once you've defeated RBY Pokemon challenges, you don't just get to keep the same Pokemon and keep grinding up levels. No, you have to go back to the very beginning, square one, and do it all over again. Except this time, all of the opponents are going to stunt on you even harder. If and only if you manage to beat the champion in round 2, you will get the rematch with RBY Pokemon challenges and finally see a trainer that, name a trainer in the history of the Pokemon franchise, RBY Pokemon challenges makes them look like an absolute joke. I'm saying that as the guy who programmed this. I can promise you that he will make whatever team you've got, whatever strategy you've got, look like absolute trash. Still, you guys are just going to have to figure that one out for yourselves, if and only if anybody can ever get it to go, which I think is only going to be by hacking. But if you get it, I hope you enjoy when you get to the end and just try to fight him straight up. If you cheat, you know, but I'm telling you that until you've seen that fight a couple times, you won't know what strategy you need to use. And even when you do know what strategy you need to use, use, getting to the end with the strategy that you need to use is going to be so incredibly terrible that I guarantee nobody in the history of Pokemon has ever been able to get that done. Anyway, let me give a massive thank you to the channel members. You can see I've got a new level up system here thanks to the channel memberships. I am at level 5. We are making our way to level 6. If you'd like to support, consider joining a channel membership yourself to help me get there. But with that, I'll see you guys in the next one. Later.